Adequate notice of this meeting of the Zoning Board of Adjustment was sent by email to the Asbury Park Press and the Co-Star, our official newspapers, on January 4th, 2021, and posted on the municipal website and the bulletin board at the municipal building. Okay. Mr. Capoli.
Here.
Mr. Hutchinson.
Here.
Mr. Fitzgerald.
Here.
Ms. Dietz.
Here.
Mr. Gregg.
Here.
Ms. Drazenovich.
Here.
Mr. Lisco.
Here.
And Mr. Ross, Mr. Palmisano, Mr. Drews, and Mr. Malengo are absent.
All right. Thank you, April. Welcome to the February 25th, 2021 Board of Adjustments meeting. Will you please join the board in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for the flag, April. I love it. All right. Next up is a motion to waive the reading and approve the January 28th, 2021 minutes. Can I have that motion, please?
I'll make that.
Thank you, Mr. Hutchison.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Capoli.
Okay. Mr. Capoli.
Yes.
Mr. Hutchinson.
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald.
Yes.
Ms. Dietz.
Yes.
Mr. Gregg.
Abstain.
Ms. Drazenovich.
Yes.
Mr. Lisco.
Yes. All right. Next up is the resolution for Tony Almeida at 419 10th Avenue.
Mr.
Kevin, do you have
Chairman.
anything on?
Yeah, I apologize. I just called April. I said, April, I can't find it. And she said that's because I didn't submit it to you all. So I apologize. So please, if you extend my apologies to you all, but also to the applicant, we'll put that on the next agenda.
Very good. And then next up we have the.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
I have a matter regarding that I'd like to just mention and just ask Mr. Kennedy if he could please take this into account. I don't believe when we did that application, that was for the garage on the house at 10th Avenue. We were gonna, he was going to give up the 2-family in the front house, and in return, we were gonna allow a garage to be built with a small apartment on top, being the second unit on that property. And the front house would turn into a single-family property. I don't believe we made a contingent on that application that the work be done on the front house or either concurrently or prior to allowing the rear garage apartment to be built. And I just want to make sure that we're not in a situation here where the applicant could build the garage apartment and not make the improvements to the front house that he had indicated.
Okay, excellent point. And I'll make sure that that's, because that was the intent. I'll make sure that we have that and we'll discuss it next time. But I think that's an excellent point and I'll incorporate it.
Thanks, everybody. Was that it, Mr. Fitzgerald?
Yes, thank you,
Great.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. All right, next up is the resolution establishing the policy for adjournment requests. Kevin, I don't know that we've recorded a resolution like this lately. Do we need to discuss it?
Yeah, I mean, it just like I said, came up at the discussion at the last meeting, and I figured if we want to have any type of policy that we should at least just have some teeth in it, adopt it. We certainly don't have to adopt it tonight, and we don't have to adopt it as presented. But we typically, April, I think each January we renew our bylaws, correct?
Correct.
So this would, if you wanted it to be, we could do one of our bylaws, or if you just want to say, what, let's not have it written. Let's just say this is our policy and we just do it.
I thought it was fair. I have no problem with it being a policy. Anybody object?
No.
Okay, great. So do I make a motion to waive the reading and approve the resolution for establishing
Sure.
policy for
just yeah, absolutely. And just for the record, we got the language in there. It's the policy can be waived if the interest of justice so require. So I thought that was a nifty little phrase. So that if there's really compelling circumstances, we can shift gears.
That sounds like a law school gem to me.
Exactly.
All right, can we have that motion?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzgerald.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Epps.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right.
All right, we have 3 applications on the agenda tonight, and we're going to do them a little bit out of order. And we're going to start with Keith and Catherine Henning at 1707 Surf Avenue.
Sure. And Mr. Chairman, just for the record, I think the other 2 notices said 7 o'clock. So this notice said for 6 o'clock. So that sort of makes sense why we would start with this one. And what we'll do is we will swear Ted in. Ted Bianchi, good evening. And you could raise your right hand. You are the Borough Zoning Officer and Construction Official. Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide, to the extent you provide any, will be the truth to the best of your knowledge to help you God?
I do.
Okay. Oh, and you know what? I'm sorry. Let me just go back one quick thing. April, did we ever do the Open Public Meetings Act statement?
Yes.
We did. Okay. I told you I was late and with my broken computer. So what we'll do is we're going to mark into the record what we as a board have before us. And what I'm going to also ask, Mr. Chairman, as is our standard pandemic protocol, if there's anyone here in the listening public who has any questions or comments or concerns regarding the sufficiency of the notice they received, not substantive comments about the application, just the notice, now would be the time for them to raise their computer, raise their hand icon, if that's the right term, or contact our absolutely fabulous board secretary, who can be contacted at
Clerk@belmar.com.
Okay, so what we're going to do is A1 will be the development application package, and that's dated December 18th, 2020. A2 is the application checklist, and A3 is the minor land use zoning permit, and dated, it's about November 21st, 2020, and that's got some attachments to it, handwritten and otherwise. And let's see, I think we have some architectural elevations. We're going to mark that as A4, and then we have a survey of the property prepared by Lakeland Surveying Company, and that's, let's see, dated December 10th, 2020. We'll mark that as A5. And then there's a series of pictures. We're going to mark them just collectively as A6. They're various pictures of the homes, the subject home and surrounding homes. And we can get into that later on if we have to for more description. And I think that was it. April, in the has anyone expressed any desire to be heard on notice issues?
No.
Okay.
And then
So-
if I could just ask real quick, Mr. Henning, is there anyone else that needs to be brought up as a panelist, or is it just you and your wife? Oh. Is that done?
I'm sorry. Did you not hear me?
Nope.
No, thank you.
Okay. Jim Cotillo, my architect. He should be, he's on. James P. Cotillo.
Oh, I see him. Hold on. Okay.
All right, so Mr. Chairman, it would be the board secretary and I reviewed the notice and found everything to be in order. So it would be my respectful opinion that we have jurisdiction to proceed tonight. So Mr. Chairman, should I swear the witnesses in?
Yeah, please do. And just right before you do, if I could remind everybody, if you're not presenting, to please turn off your microphone to mute. Thank you.
All right, so Mr. and Mrs. Henning, I guess if you could just both state your first and last name.
Keith Henning.
Catherine Henning.
Okay, and that's Catherine with a K.
Yes.
Okay. And then Mr. Cotillo, could you just state your name for the record
Yes, it's James Cotillo,
and spell your last name?
Cuttillo.
And you're testifying in your capacity as an architect?
That is correct.
And your business address is?
593 Newark Pompton Turnpike in Pompton Plains, New Jersey.
Okay, and Mr. and Mrs. Henning, I'm sorry, if you could just state your address, please.
6 Old Booton Road, Denville, New Jersey.
Perfect. All right, if you could all three of you raise your right hand, do you all swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
Yes.
Okay. And Mr. and Mrs. Henning, if I could just start off just asking a couple real quick, simple, basic questions so we can get the flavor of the application. We're talking about the property at 1707 Surf Avenue, correct?
Yes.
And are you all the owners of that property?
Yes, we are.
And how long have you owned it since, roughly?
August 28th, we closed, 2020.
August 28th, 2020. And is there a single family home on the lot?
Yes.
And do you live there?
Part-time, we just closed on it. So we actually vacation there, Labor Day, last few
Okay.
weeks of the summer.
All right. So why don't you, however you want to tell the board what it is you're looking to do, and obviously you can bring in your architect as you desire.
Sure, I'd be happy to. My wife and I are both born and raised in New Jersey our whole lives, spent many summers in Belmar. We loved it. We have 2 grown children at this point who don't like to hang out with us, so we thought we would bribe them by buying a beach house. So it actually worked. We got a great end of summer, and we purchased the house. It's a great location. It's a great town. And, it's just, we knew that we needed to do something to it. It's a small home, bungalow style. It needs a lot of code upgrades. There's no egress windows, probably about 10 electrical outlets in the whole house. And, and I'll get into this when I, share my screen. I could show you some pictures of what we do and what I do. And, we would just like to make it a home for my family. It's got 2 bedrooms. One is a small bedroom on the first floor. The second floor is basically like a boarding room, the previous owner. And when you get to see the pictures, don't get scared, but there's like 10 beds up there. That's not our pictures. And so we'd like to, make it a 3-bedroom home, bedroom for myself and my wife, the 2 kids, and just kind of make it a more modern home, washer and dryer. We thinking about the idea that we may like to retire down there. It's a very small lot. What we're proposing to do is not really expand outside the existing footprint. We're going to stay within that. So you'll see, I'll have Jim speak on the variances that we're requesting, but we're really kind of going on what the existing footprint is, and the existing nonconformities kind of stay within that. Impervious coverage, we did reduce that by eliminating some stone on the property, removing a deck, and that's pretty much it. So if I could share my screen, I just give you a little background. My wife is a licensed realtor. I've been in the construction industry for over 35 years. I'm a registered new home builder, a licensed home improvement contractor in New Jersey, a licensed mechanical contractor in New Jersey. I've owned an air conditioning company for over 35 years. In addition to that, my wife and I build or renovate at least 1 or 2 homes a year here in northern New Jersey. And I'm happy to show you some pictures when I share the screen of, the quality of work that we do and how my wife likes to spend money. So April, just hit the share screen and I'll pull up the application.
Yes.
All right, so. Okay, can you guys see that?
Not yet.
All right, just bear with me here.
Yeah, it should pop up with a window, and then you can pick which file you want to share.
I'm sorry, April?
When you click share screen, it should pop up with a window, and you should be able to.
I got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh.
And then you can pick which one you want to share.
I'm trying to share something on my desktop here.
You have to have the file open and to do it.
No. All right, how about we do this? Could you just pull up the application packet and pull up the pictures? Would that be easier?
Sure, just give me 1 sec.
I don't know, it's not working. Entire screen, share.
Do you have the screen up, April, or it's not coming up?
Oh no, just give me 1 sec. I just have to get the file ready.
Yeah.
And there you go. You want to see the pictures?
Yeah, the pictures to the before and after pictures of the house, it's down a ways. Okay, that's, yeah. So this is one project that we did. Jim Cotillo was the architect on this project as well. So this is actually my house. So there's a before picture. And if you scroll down, you'll just see the next one of what we did. We did that in 2019, 2020. And if you scroll down to the next one, that's a new build that we did from the ground up in 2019, 2020 as well. So, I mean, clearly, you know, we don't skimp, and anything we do in this neighborhood is going to, you know, in my opinion, be terrific. It's our own home, and we're not going to hold anything back. So, April, if you scroll down just a little bit, you know, you could see there's the house. The neighborhood has been developed really well. It's kind of the ugly duckling of the street, in my opinion. So, again, if approved, I feel that we would be improving the neighborhood. And April, if you keep scrolling down, there's a couple more, views from different angles. There you go. And again, the intention is to remove those rocks and plant grass there, remove a rear deck. And if you scroll down a little more, April, I just want to, the existing conditions in the home is just that's a small, like 8-foot by 8-foot bedroom. There's no electrical outlets. Very tiny. This is the second floor dorm room that I was explaining. Again, that's not us, but I mean, it's low roofs. It's really no privacy up there. I call this the second floor woman's room because a man can't use it without hitting his head. That's about it. I mean, if you want to, April, if you could scroll up to the floor plan of what we intend to do. Maybe a little bit, go down, one more page down. That's perfect. So the first floor, the intention is to, add a washer dryer in the mechanical room there off the kitchen, remove that bedroom, give us a nice open floor plan, set of stairs going up to a second floor that would give us 3 medium-sized bedrooms. Again, we're working with what we have and, building on the existing footprint. 2 bathrooms, a master bath, and then a bath for the 2 bedrooms. And then upstairs on the 3rd floor, just like a little lounge area. I think you know, that's pretty much as far as, you know, I have. Do you guys have any questions for us?
What we typically do is let the applicant and any of their experts walk all the way through the testimony, and we'll hold all our questions till the end and go through it then.
Okay, so with that, Jim, I'd ask you to step in and kind of go over the technical details.
Okay, I'm here. Do you need to qualify me?
Yeah, why don't you just, for the record, state your licenses and certifications and educational background and all that great stuff.
Certainly. I'm a licensed architect in New Jersey and New York. I've been licensed since 1986. I've had my own practice for over 35 years, and I've testified in many towns throughout the state of New Jersey. I've not testified in Belmar. However, I've done quite a few homes there that did not require variances.
Okay.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Cotillo. We'll accept your credentials.
Thank you.
In your presentation, if I could just ask that you'll go through the list of the variances that you are requesting here as you go through all the other technical information.
Right, thank you.
Thank you.
As Mr. Henning just pointed out, the floor plan that's on the screen now, so we can stay there. The plan is to stay with the existing footprint, so we're not increasing the square footage of the first floor plan whatsoever. The porch is there facing the front, and the stairs are basically in the same location. We're just really taking out the interior walls, opening up the floor plan for a typical modern, floor plan for open living. So then you would go up to the second floor, and as he said, there's 3 bedrooms and 2 baths, and then go up to the upper level where there's the required amount of finished area there that would lead out onto a small balcony for the view. So as you can see, the neighborhood that was pointed out in the photos, by making these improvements, this home would be more commensurate with the neighborhood than what it is right now. So there is a list of variances that are required. And the thing is about those variances is that they're actually all pre-existing conditions. So we're not really asking for anything that's not already there. So I'll start from the beginning where the required square footage of the property is 4,000 square feet, but the existing area of the property is 2,400 square feet. That is existing and existing condition. Your maximum building coverage is 30%. Currently, the footprint of the existing house is 43.8%, and we are not planning on changing that whatsoever. We are not making it any bigger. It'll stay at 43.8%. The next one would be your lot coverage, where it's required to be 55%. Currently, they're at 72.3%. We are indeed able to decrease that number down to 56%, just about it's 1% over what the requirement is, and of course we're able to do that by getting rid of all of the stone areas and turning that into a lawn area. So that's a real big improvement for the outside of the house. Currently, there are 2 parking spaces. We're required to have 2 parking spaces, and we're going to provide 2 parking spaces, but it is a pre-existing nonconformity because one of those parking spaces is located in the front yard, and that's where it is today. So our plan is to maintain that. The next thing would be the rear yard. Your ordinance requires 25-foot rear yard setback. And currently, there are some setbacks that are I have to just check one thing. Yeah, the garage, the existing garage is set far back on the property, so that's only 2 foot, 1 inch back from the rear. And the house where it's existing today is only 11'7" from the rear. But we're not planning on making any changes to that. That can stay where it is. And then the next is the side yard, which the requirement is 5 feet to the side yard. And currently the garage is encroaching on that So the current garage is only 2 inches to that side yard, but we plan on leaving it that way. So we're not making it any worse than what it is. And lastly, you have an ordinance that says that building areas over the front porches are not allowed. And we are planning on building over that front porch. I'd like to go back and just to point out that picture that they showed of the existing residence, and there already is building area over, that's it right there, that's a good one, over top of that front porch. So there already is space there. So of course, we're going to take that roof off and reconfigure that, but just to note that we're basically, it's there already, and we're going to continue with that aspect. And, and as you can see, the front porches, that's very common on that street. So that really, basically are the things that we're asking for this evening. We don't feel that we're making matters any worse for what's already there. I think we're making a large improvement to the neighborhood, and we're actually making an improvement on the maximum lot coverage issue. So I feel that this can be approved and without detriment. And that's basically what I have, unless there's any questions.
Thanks, Mr. Cotillo. I guess we'll give it back to you, Mr. and Mrs. Henning. Did you have anything else you wanted to add? If not, we'll open it up to board questions.
No, I think we covered it all.
Excellent. All right, with that, we'll start right into board questions. Why don't we start with Mr. Hutchison?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I assume that you've done some engineering analysis of the existing foundation, and will support that 1.5 stories.
Yes, I have, and the foundation is in good condition.
Is it a full basement or a crawl, or?
It's just a crawl space.
Crawl space. So there's no issues with flood or anything like that? Is that a flood zone?
No.
No, it's not.
No?
So,
Good. That's good. That's about the only question I have. It seems like pretty straightforward.
Thank you, Mr. Hutchison. Mr. Capoli, you're up next. Oh, Mr. Capoli, we can't hear you, even though your mute is off. Uh-oh, no, we can't hear you. I actually haven't seen this problem come up on Zoom before.
Yeah, you know
Oh,
what?
here we are. Yeah, that's it.
Pass me, you got me now?
Yeah, no, that's great.
All right, good. I have a few questions. Number one is parking. It looks like we have no parking, really. The garage can't be used, and there's 2 on the drawing, and only 1 is a possibility. You can't have a parking space forward of the front structure, and you have one. So obviously we need a variance for that. Are they going to be renting, or are you going to be living in that, or what are we doing?
We'll be using it.
We're gonna be living in it. And as far as the parking goes, obviously we have 1 20-foot by 9-foot spot from the garage door forward. I do also have, 2 20 by 9-foot spots without encroaching on the right of way. I've parked 2 cars there many times. And I understand the ordinance, and yes, we do need a parking variance as well. That was on Ted's thing. I did go back to some historical data, as far, I think I got back to like 1960, and I don't know when that ordinance came in, but, there always was that driveway there in front of that house. But, I guess as part of the application, we would need to ask for a parking variance for 1 spot. But I can tell you that I can park 2 cars there without encroaching on that right of way.
We have that situation on a lot of homes, but you still have to apply for the variance for that.
Understood, and we'll ask for that.
Okay.
Hey, Mr.
And,
Bianchi, or I'm sorry, Mr. Capoli, if I could just interrupt. Mr. Bianchi, how many parking spaces do they need?
How many bedrooms?
3 bedrooms.
2 spots.
2 spots. All right. So you're going to ask for a variance for 1 parking spot where 2 are required.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Capoli. Thank you, everybody.
the percent of your demo that you're renovating the house, is it over 50%?
I would say it's right on there. I mean, we're gonna keep the existing first floor walls and pretty much take the top floor off. It is not in a flood zone, so there's no FEMA requirement.
It would be nice to know that. AC units, where are they going to be located? I don't see them on the drawing.
They're actually on the site plan, and the proposal is to put it on top of the roof structure of the garage. And it does fall within the setbacks.
Okay, looks like you're going to be doing your sewer over and your electrical services over. Is that correct?
The sewer line will remain. The electrical service, yes, it will be relocated.
I would like to see that put on the ground. You have a pole on your property, your new service to be put on the ground, meaning your electric and your TV or communications or whatever we use.
As long as it wasn't too cost prohibitive, I'd be happy to do that. I did research. There is some poles in the back, is where all the other homes get fed from, because actually that's the only telephone pole on the street. So I'm actually looking into feeding the power from the rear of the home, and actually we could lose that pole altogether. Would be great. I don't like it either.
If you removed it, if you put it into the rear, I wouldn't ask you to put it on the ground. But if you put it in the front, I will ask you to put all those services on the ground. And I'm not quite sure that I see, will your front of your house line up with the neighboring houses?
Yeah, if you look at the site plan, there's an average there, and it's within, I believe, a foot of all the neighboring
Yeah,
homes.
it looks like it, but I couldn't tell. I was there at 6:30 this morning, your neighbor. So it was still a little dark then, and I thought it was okay, but I just wanted to ask. I think at this time, Mr. Chairman, that's all I have. Questions?
Thanks, Mr. Capoli. And then just to follow up on your request, Mr. Henning, I think what I heard Mr. Capoli was asking you to do was make a good faith effort to get the utilities underground if you're coming off that pole in the front. I did hear you say if it wasn't cost prohibitive. Kevin, do we have wording that addresses that exact issue?
Yes, we do. We usually say good faith efforts, assuming the utility company allows it and assuming it's not unduly burdensome, and with an obligation that the applicants report back to the board secretary. But we did, that is our general language, if that's acceptable.
That's right. That's right. That's you, Mr. Henning. Is that acceptable to you for that language?
Absolutely.
Excellent. Thank you. All right. Thank you, Mr. Capoli. Mr. Fitzgerald, you're up next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have my question, and it's somewhat a bit of an aesthetic here, but why isn't the siding continuing down? It seems like you're not going to side the first floor, and you're going to begin siding where the second floor begins. And I don't understand why the siding would stop at such a height, and then if it's stopping there, then what's that material going to be on the north and south side and rear of the home?
Okay, I can answer that. So in the case of preparing a preliminary drawing for the board, we actually poche out or draw up whatever the new areas are. So it's more a representation of what's existing and what's proposed. We are actually planning on re-siding 100% of the whole entire house. But in terms of just saying what of those areas are existing, those elevations that are not, where the siding is not drawn in, just means that those are existing walls, but they will definitely receive new siding.
Okay, Mr. Kenny, if we could please make note of that
Will do.
the drawings aren't not exactly representative, and that the siding would be a requirement of what the actual as-built is going to look like.
So noted, sir.
And you know, I understand, I'm very familiar with this property and the one next door. And I understand the garage or the storage area situation. You know, they're conjoined, they're attached. It looks horrible. And I'm only concerned that you have an opportunity to fix something here and you're going to continue that same scenario. But I get that you need storage space. So have you contemplated any other solutions for that, you know, horrible joined garage with your neighbors, or is there any other solution you could come up with there? Because
Well,
it's going to take a bad situation and allow it to stay.
understood. I mean, if you look at the drawings, again, you're right, it is a challenging situation. We did put a facade on the front. If you look at the architectural drawing, you'll see that we added like a nice peak on there. We're going to do a nice decorative garage door to kind of not have a flat roof and make it more aesthetically pleasing to the neighborhood.
Yeah, I understand the jam that you're in there, and I appreciate that. The only thing that I would ask, and I'm sure that you would agree to this, is that there be no plans for that to be an entryway from the house into that unit, that would not be eventually becoming interior space of the home.
Yeah, actually, the house ends about a foot. When you open that garage door, you're almost in the backyard. So that's not, yeah, I'll definitely agree to that.
And
Yeah,
Mark,
well, that corner of the house, you're going to have mechanical and a bathroom, and so I can't see it readily creating an opening. But we just want to make sure that it's a separate structure and not contiguous to the first floor of the home.
Understood.
Okay. Yep. I have no further questions, Mr.
Mark,
Chairman.
could you just repeat that condition?
I hate calling it garage, the shed area that's at the end of the driveway. We just want to ensure that that's not going to become accessible from the interior of the home, you know, eventually becoming a bedroom or something, that it remains accessible only from the driveway, and that the interior wall not be demolished and that become another area.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Fitzgerald. Ms. Dietz, you're up next.
Thank you. I just wanted clarification. I was just a little confused when going back to the parking spot. You had said right now there's a spot toward the rear, and then there's a spot in the front of the home. Is that correct?
Well, technically, there's only one spot. According to your ordinance, I only have parking for one spot, 120-foot by 9 space.
Okay, so I understand that we talked about making sure that back area had 2, but I just wanted to clarify that there would not be any parking in the front of the home.
I'm asking for a variance for one spot.
In the front of the house?
In the front of the house, yeah. I would still be, that one spot would be in my driveway, but you can't park vehicles from the front of your house towards the right of way. So I'm asking for that.
And is that when you were saying that you can get the 2 cars without impinging? That's technically the front?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Just needed that clarification.
Yeah, and maybe I may have been off on that a little bit. I'm not sure how we address that. I don't think the town allows parking in the front of the house. So we're not granting a variance for you to park in front of the house. We're granting a variance where you are required to have 2 spaces and you're only coming in front of us for 1. But it's also my understanding that that is not enforced where people park in, you know, that second car in your driveway. Mr. Bianchi, is that normally how we address that? I don't.
What about parking in the front yard, John?
Yeah, I mean, we're not granting a variance to park in the front yard unless I'm off.
Yeah, you can't park in anything in front of the structure towards the front of the property needs a variance. And it needs one for 2 spots. I mean, it's kind of it goes together, you know, he's parking in the front yard, not permitted.
So when we were granting a variance, I thought we were granting one parking spot where two were required
Right.
and not addressing that front of the house parking spot.
Well, I mean, it would have to be in the front of the other spot, so it's going to wind up in the front yard, which is a variance.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I'm a little confused because it's not in front of the house. It's the fact that it doesn't go back past the corner of the house. We've had this discussion. So it looks like they've always could fit two cars there and they continue to fit two cars there. I don't think anything than what is currently the case is being requested. If I'm mistaken, please correct me, Mr. Henning or Miss Henning.
No, I could definitely park two cars in that driveway and not encroach on that right of way at all. There's like still 3 feet.
It's not going onto the sidewalk.
Absolutely not, no.
But you can't get it past the corner of the house, though. You're somewhat like hanging over about where the porch is, or
It's about from the sidewalk. The front of the car is about 3 feet in front of the sidewalk, with two cars in there.
So we're either granting a variance to allow him to park. We either grant him a variance to allow him to park in front of the house, or we grant him a variance for one spot where two are required. Is that what you understand, Mr. Bianchi?
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right. I think it's almost 6 of one, half dozen of another, and I'm much more comfortable granting one parking spot where two are required.
Right.
Does anybody on the board feel differently than that?
I'd like to speak up on this. That's my understanding. Now, if he had, let's say, for instance, if you had a 4-bedroom house, he'd be looking for 3 parking places, and we can't fit 3 parking places anywhere. So we'd be granting a variance to build with an inadequate number of parking places. That's all we're granting. We're not granting a variance to park in a spot that's not allowed by the town. We're granting a variance to build with an inadequate number of parking places. Wherever he parks those other cars is up to him. So it's not really a variance allowing him to do something that's not allowed. It's a variance to build with an inadequate number of parking places, the way I see it.
I see it the same way.
Mr. Chairman, that would be consistent with many of our prior determinations. I think we, as you indicated, go with and as Mark indicated, you're granting a variance for the number of parking spaces and you leave it at that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Does anybody have any objections to that, including you, Mr. Henning?
I do not.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And Ms. Dietz, that was your question. Did you have any more?
No, that was it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Strazenovich, we'll go to you next.
Okay. Hi. Thank you. Okay. So the garage. So if you cannot, it's my understanding from the notes that you cannot fit a car in that garage. So are you going to have a regular, like a full-size garage door? That's what it looks depicted in the drawings.
Yeah, we're going to widen that little tiny 4-foot garage door to it. I think I'm going to try and get a 7, possibly an 8-foot garage door there. So it will be a garage door there, a full-size door.
Even though you can't fit a vehicle inside of it.
Yeah, well, aesthetically, it would look a lot nicer to make it actually look like a garage instead of a half a garage door.
Okay.
The garage is also too shallow to fit a full-size car in there.
Right. Yeah, that's what I see from the notes. Thank you. Let's see. So I don't think I saw, there's no landscape plans included. I know that you're planning to remove all of the stone, and that's in the front and on the side. I guess it's the north side of the house.
Yeah, that is correct. Yeah.
Okay. But there's no landscape plan.
No, there's no landscape plan. It's a very small lot, and in front of the porch there'll be shrubs and grass around the front. I mean, the front yard is literally 40, not even, it's about 20 feet wide by maybe 15 feet deep.
Right.
So there's not, we'll have some shrubs in front of the front porch, and then a grassy area in the front, along the side, and then the rear of the home.
And you're going to replace the rocks that are in the right of way and that, like the planting strip between the sidewalk and the curb as well?
Yeah, that was the intent, to put grass there, to make it consistent with the other homes in the neighborhood.
Okay, and I saw also you're removing that sidewalk that's on the other side?
Yeah, I don't know what that is. It's just, I don't know where that went. I think the old side entrance was there or something, but yeah, that's all coming out.
And is your neighbor, so are you gonna, is that whole little side yard gonna be grass, or is your neighbor?
It's funny because I know Sandy, she actually called me and asked me, and we spoke about it, and you know, to make it more continuous, grass is the plan, yeah.
Okay. Then I would just, my only other suggestion or, you know, inquiry is really about, I'm glad that you're switching the rocks out, and that will help with some of the stormwater runoff and removing your deck. And so that's going to be grass back there. So that will help with that as well. But if you planted even just any smaller trees, you know, in your front yard there, that would be helpful too, because that whole street is pretty bare of trees. You know, none of the neighbors really have much there. And it's great that you're not in a flood zone there, but it's always a possibility, and at least trees drink water. So,
I like that. I like that.
All right, she's spending money. Here we go.
Thank you.
okay, that's all the questions or points that I wanted to raise at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Zinovich. Mr. Grigg, you're up next.
Most of my points have been covered. The only other thing that I would consider asking for is in that driveway, if you would consider putting pervious pavers instead of standard pavers. And if you would, we'll make that a condition of the application.
You know, I would prefer not to. I mean, if it came down to the application getting approved or not, yes, I would do it. It's a paver driveway. I reduced the impervious coverage from 76% to 56%, sacrificing the deck in the rear of the home that was existing, and I understand that. But I honestly like the driveway. It's pavers already, and I would prefer not to. Again, if it was a consideration and the application would not get approved if I didn't do it, I would be willing to do it.
No, I'm not going to tell you that I would vote against you just because of that. I mean, it still would be a paver driveway.
No, I understand, but I would have to go through the expense to remove all of the pavers and then take all the sand out and put gravel in there. I mean, you know better than me, it's a process. It's not just replacing pavers, it's the whole, you know, structure underneath the pavers as well.
Okay, it's currently a paver driveway?
Yes, it is.
All right, I'm not going to argue that point then. Thank you very much. That's the only thing I have for you.
My only question was for stormwater runoff. I didn't see exactly where that was going to be directed.
Well,
the grassy areas.
Yeah, the existing neighborhood, I did do a survey, and basically they all go out to grade through leader pipes, and yeah, the intent was to run the leader pipes down into the grassy areas on splash blocks.
All right, excellent. I think that's it for questions. Mr. Bianchi, did we miss anything? Did you get your answers on the calculation for the half-story definition and everything else in your memo?
Did we get that? I don't know. I haven't seen that. I don't have the paperwork. April didn't give it to me.
It's on the site plan.
All right. Mr. Catilla, you addressed all those points then in the site plan?
Yes, I did.
All right. Excellent.
I guess, Mr. Chairman, just for the record, Mr. Kujula, you're complying with the borough's half-story ordinance, correct?
That is correct.
So there's no variance relief. Perfect. Thank you.
All right. I think that's it. With that, we'll open it up to the public. And April, if you'll be kind enough to run the public portion.
Mr. Chairman, I did have one other question.
Oh, I pulled up Ted's notes if you wanted to see them.
Oh, thank you.
And just for the record, Mr. Chairman, can we note how adept our board secretaries be coming with this this machine.
Very efficient. So do we have calculations for the half story?
Yes, they're on the site plan, on the
Okay.
it's on the application.
Okay, and the area 5 feet or less is at least 40% of the floor below?
Jim?
Yes, sorry, I had on mute. Yes.
And the roof line isn't more than 3 feet above the attic floor?
Yes, it all complies. I went through the ordinance and
Okay.
calculated everything.
Okay,
And when we submit the final construction drawings, it's also all spelled out on there as well.
okay, very good.
Excellent.
All right.
Mr. Capoli, did you have something before we go to public?
I did have one other question, if I may.
Mr. Capoli, you just dropped off again. You're on mute.
How's that?
Yeah, much better.
All right. Is there gonna be sump pumps on the property?
No, there's no sump pumps. It's a crawl space.
All right, they're not gonna try to contain any water in there or anything?
No, it's very dry. There's
Okay.
nothing,
Okay, that's all I had, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, April, if you would run the public portion, please.
Sure, if anyone from the public would like to comment on this application, please click the raise hand button. And then once you are promoted to speak, please remember to state your name and address.
And April, if someone were having computer access problems, as I'm well aware of, what would they do?
They could email me at clerk@belmar.com.
Thank you.
That's starting to sound like a well-rehearsed skit.
Yes.
Try the veal.
Okay, Mr. Custodi?
Good evening, everyone. Hello, Mr. and Mrs. Henning. It's Joseph Custodi. I live at 313 14th Avenue. I was Keith's karate instructor.
I
in
know,
Belmar.
I just said that.
You look familiar.
Welcome to Belmar.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And I would like to say on the Hennings
You know what,
behalf.
Mr.
what a
Capoli, I'm just
wonder-
gonna, excuse me 1 second, I'm just gonna swear you in. Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide, to the extent you provide any, will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
Yes, so help me
Thank
God.
you. I'm sorry for cutting you off.
Not a problem at all. I can swear to God that the Hennings are a wonderful family, and it's going to be great to have you in Belmar.
Thanks.
Nice seeing you
Thank
guys
you.
again.
Nice to see you.
Thank you.
That's it.
He wasn't my karate teacher either.
My
It was my son. Yeah.
Go ahead, Ms. Caputo.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Sure, we can. Why don't you just state your name and address for the record, please?
Sandy Caputo, 1705 Surf Avenue. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening and welcome to the zoning board. Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide, to the extent you provide any, will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
Yes.
Thank you so much.
I live right next door on the north side. I'm in favor of this application and I hope that you vote to approve it. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Linda Sharkus, 4th Avenue.
Hello, good evening. Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide, to the extent you provide any, will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
I do.
Thank you so much.
So I want to agree with Keith. His house is really the eyesore on the block, and this application would definitely beautify the neighborhood. I hope the board votes in favor of this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sharkus.
That was it.
All right, with that, we'll close the public portion, go back out to board comment, starting with Mr. Hutchison.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One of the things I really like is that the applicants have consulted or at least spoken with their neighbors and tried to get them on board with what they're doing. And I think that's just not only neighborly, but very smart. And I think it's a pretty straightforward application. I think aesthetically, it's going to be a real asset to the neighborhood, and I'm in favor of the application.
Thank you, Mr. Hutchison. Mr. Capoli, you're up next.
See if we can get over here.
We can hear you.
Oh, you can. Okay. I also am in favor of the application. I would like to wish you guys all the best luck in the world. Again, welcome to Belmar, and you're going to love it here.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Capoli. Mr. Fitzgerald.
We have challenges here. You're cursed with an undersized lot, and we appreciate that you're not extending beyond the current footprint, which we see time and time again. So maintaining that footprint and lot coverage is a very positive move, and we really appreciate the challenges that you're having to deal with this new construction. Certainly agree that the current house, as some of the nearby neighbors, and I'm not too far away, concur with that the current house is not in keeping with the improvements that have taken place along Surf Avenue. And I think what you're building is going to be beautiful. And I'm certainly in favor of letting this application go forward.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzgerald. Ms. Dietz.
Yes, thank you. I just want to concur. I think it's going to be a great addition to the neighborhood, and look forward to having you guys down in Belmar. And I'm in favor of the application.
Thank you. Mr. Zinovich.
Hi, I concur as well. I don't have anything additional or anything different to add. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Mr. Grigg.
It looks like a good application. It looks like an improvement to the neighborhood. And I'm glad that you've been able to reduce the existing impervious. So I'm in favor of the application.
And I too am in favor of the application. I think you did a great job keeping within the footprint and not expanding beyond it or exacerbating any of the existing conditions. I think it's a well-done design on a very small, challenging property. With that, Mr. Kennedy, will you summarize?
Sure. So if the application is going to be approved, some of the conditions, potential conditions of approval would appear to be compliance with all the promises and commitments and representations the applicant's development team presented tonight. We have compliance, obviously, with the height. There's no height variance being granted. Here, we're going to say, well, we don't need any condition on the load capacity because there was testimony on that. I guess compliance with any applicable FEMA regulations if, but I don't think it's in a flood zone. I think, obtaining any and all permits, air conditioning units to be located in a zoning compliant location. And was there, I think this was Mr. Fitzgerald, is there, oh, no, this wasn't, but is there, Mr. Chairman, with the air conditioning units on top of the garage, is there any screening requirements that we need to, or is there, is there a zoning requirement for screening on top of the garage, or we don't have to worry about that?
No, it's
okay.
Not in the setback.
Okay, thank you. And then there was the good faith efforts to put the utility service underground. I think, Mr. Chairman, the caveat was if it's coming in from the front yard.
That was correct.
Okay. And we had, let's see. Mr. Fitzgerald, I'm going to have to make this language better between now and the next meeting, but something to the point with the garage or shed at the end of the driveway is not to be accessible from the interior of the home. Rather, it's only accessible from the outside, and it's basically no interior demolition of the walls so as to basically increase the overall living space. And Mr. Fitzgerald again was, I guess, a revision of the plans or a notation on the plans to confirm that 100% of the home will be resided. It's just the way that the plans were presented, which suggested otherwise, but that's not the case.
I would just caution the 100% language because clearly, you know, a couple feet off the ground is reasonable. So
Okay,
the 100% isn't meant all the way to the
got
ground.
it.
Right.
Substantial. We'll work on that. And again, Mr. Chairman, just given the nature of the conversation we had on the parking, we're always just going to say, not necessarily as a condition of approval, but you know, we're not giving any variance relief to allow people to park in violation of the municipal parking requirements. We are granting a variance. I think typically we say garage or shed not to be used for living space. I think there was basically additional landscaping details to be submitted with some trees in the front yard. And I guess to the satisfaction of our zoning officer, including that side yard area being green to continue the, Mr. Vinovich, I think that was with something you had said, but continue with that pattern. And let's see, stormwater runoff details to be submitted to, reviewed and approved by the borough engineer, comply with the half-story definition requirements as no variance relief is granted for that, and obtaining any outside approvals. Mr. Henning, we usually have a 24-month shelf life for the approvals, saying you need to get the, the permits and certificates of occupancy within 24 months or any agreed upon extension. And Mr. Chairman, I think that was the gist of it.
Mr. Kennedy, I believe it was. All right, with that, can I have a motion to approve the application as summarized by Mr. Kennedy?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Gregg.
I'll second it.
Oh, I think Ms. Dietz won that one.
Okay, go ahead, Ollie, I'll yield.
All right, Mr. Hutchinson,
Yes.
Ms. Drazenovich,
Yes, I'm in favor.
Mr. Capoli,
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald,
Yes.
Ms. Dietz,
Yes.
Mr. Gregg,
Yes.
Mr. Lisco.
Yes. Congratulations, your application is approved.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you
guys.
so much.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Good luck.
Thank you.
All right, does anybody need a break before we roll into the next application? Yes? All right, why don't we take, what do we got here? It's 7:08. Let's pick back up at 7:15. That's 6 minutes for everybody. It's actually 7:09. I want you to know that I did the math right. Just switched as I was talking. 6 minutes.
Hey, April, just for the record, why don't you just do a roll call if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman?
It's
Of course.
7:19, and we're back on the record. Mr. Capoli, he's here on mute. He's leaving. Mr. Hutchinson?
Here.
Hold on one sec. Ms. Dietz
Here.
and Mr. Fitzgerald is here, but he has stepped down. And then we have Mr. Gregg and Mr. Lisco.
Here.
And here.
Me too.
And Mr. Zenovich, sorry.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Next up is our application for 120th Avenue as Allison Gerard. I lost my agenda. Allison Gerard, 120th Avenue. Good evening.
Mr. Chairman, as the in the good old days, I'd say as the applicant's team comes forward, but now I can say as the applicant's team zooms in. I'm going to momentarily ask if anyone in the listening public had any questions or comments or concerns regarding the sufficiency of the notice they received. So if they do, please raise your computer icon or contact the board secretary at April, your email.
Clerk@belmar.com.
All right, and so what we'll do is we'll mark into the record what we as a board have before us. A1 can be the development application package dated September 21st, 2020. A2 can be the Borough of Belmar minor land use zoning permit, and that appears to be dated August 24th and September 1st, 2020. A3 is a survey prepared by Thomas Stewart Jr. and it's dated November 28th, 2005. A4 is the application checklist, and A5 appears to be some architectural renderings prepared by Mr. Damiano, and he can date those momentarily. April, has anyone chimed in or zoomed in or asked to be heard on the notice issue?
No.
Okay, so Mr. Chairman, for the record, will reflect that the board secretary and I reviewed the notice and found everything to be in order. So it'd be my opinion that we have jurisdiction to proceed. And Mr. Chair, should I swear the witnesses in?
Please do. Thanks, Mr. Kennedy.
All right, so Allison Gerard, if you could just state your name and address, please.
Sure. Allison Gerard, 100 20th Avenue.
All right, and now just so the record's clear, Allison is spelled?
A-L-I-S-O-N.
Oh, I was gonna put two L's in there, okay. And Paul Damiano, good evening. You're testifying tonight as a licensed architect?
I am.
If you could just state your name and state your business address, please.
Sure, it's Paul Damiano, D-A-M-I-A-N-O, 1721 Beverly Avenue, Spring Lake Heights, New Jersey.
Okay, good evening to the both of you. If you could both raise your right hand, do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, to the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
I do.
Okay, now I'm sorry, I didn't hear Allison.
Sorry. Yes, I do.
Oh, thank you. So let the record reflect both witnesses have been sworn. And then Mr. Gerard, if we could just do some real basic information, and then we'll turn it over to you. We're talking about the property at 100 20th Avenue, correct?
Correct.
And are you the owner of that property?
Correct.
And how long have you owned it roughly?
My family has owned it, this property since the early 80s, and I've owned this property. I bought this property from my parents in 2005.
Okay. And is there a single family home at the site?
Correct.
And do you live there?
Yes.
Okay. So why don't you tell the board or your architect about what you want to do and the relief that you need?
Sure. Just real briefly, a little bit about myself and my family. Since my parents bought property here in Belmar in the early 60s and raised us 4 children in that house, and our fondest memories are here in Belmar. So as my family grows and proliferates greatly, our Italian family, we in 2005 requested to knock down the current house and build a house that, if you will, can house us all without overflow on couches. And the board so graciously said that, approved that application. So here we are today. And since 2005, our family has grown by, my sister got married, and there's two more kids. And with the advent of that my youngest niece, my office has now been taken over, which is more than okay. But as a result of that, I've now thought about, on more than one occasion, to finally extend the roof line on my 3rd floor deck and enclose it in, because that 3rd floor deck doesn't get any use at all, since we're all out in the front of the house, looking out, luckily, at the ocean, if you will. So that being said, also with that 3rd floor back deck, it faces the northeast. So that being said, moved in 2006. Almost every summer since then, I've had some new person to come in and try to help mitigate a leak I have on that side of the house that I've been chasing for years, since 2006. I've had, I put a hurricane shutter in there. I've had the roofers come back. I've had Anderson Windows come back for the stinking leak, and I cannot get it. So this also would help to mitigate that piece of this puzzle, outside of, just expanding our space so that I can have a office to work in as opposed to my bedroom.
Terrific. Thank you. Did you or your architect want to walk us through more the details of what's going to be done here?
Sure, I'll take you through the drawings maybe with the.
And you know what, Paul?
screen share.
I'm sorry, Paul, I forgot the most important part of our evening, to swear Ted Bianchi in for the 2nd of 3 times tonight. So Ted, you're the zoning officer and construction official. Do you swear that the testimony information you're about to provide, to the extent you provide any, will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
I do.
Thank you. All right, sorry, Paul.
That's okay. Go to carry it. So let's see if I can figure out the screen share. I'm going to click on it.
Hey, Paul, just for the record, would you also give us your credentials?
Sure. I'm a licensed architect in the state of New Jersey since 1992. The last 23 years of which I've been doing custom residential work right here, mostly Belmar in the local area, but Belmar, Spring Lake, Seagirt, but throughout New Jersey. Been on a board for a few years, but also appeared in front of Belmar as a expert and architect for this original application, 2005, most recently in 2012, and probably appeared in front of maybe 30 boards throughout New Jersey, as to speak for as an architect. So.
Thank you. We'll certainly accept those credentials.
Okay, great. Thank you. And so can you see the screen or can you see my screen or no?
We can.
Okay. So there's two things. One, this is obviously the plot plan. What we're looking at is this hatched area is right now an open balcony. And the proposal is to basically fill in that open balcony with living space. So at the existing, if I can roll up here. So this is basically this is it's a single family home, but basically Allison's on this floor, her sister's on the floor below with her family. So Allison's bedroom's here with her bathroom. She's got a living space, and this was a walkout sun deck. That was used when 10 years ago or so, but obviously there's some problems with the leaking and such. So the idea is basically to have this 10-foot by 11-foot area to, I show a sofa, but, and a chair, we're basically calling it a sitting area, but it's basically an expansion of the living space. It's alcove. So it's an alcove where a desk, a chair or a desk could be. That's a dormer window. But I'll pull over here just to show. So this is the front of the house, and this is the back of the house where the balcony is. Just like the previous architect, the yellow line is the line that's there. So we hatch in the new roof line where we're trying to hip the back and minimize the form within that rear setback. Again, there's the dash line is the orange where the balcony is. We're looking to basically just fill in that roof line. Then from the west side, you can see that's actually the west side, where we fill in the roof and don't have a dormer. So when we go back to the site plan, we see that that's the area we're filling in. I'm going to click on this just to show. All right, this is the tax map. So this is the property. This is the current property that we're talking about. Actually, Allison's one brother lives here, her other brother lives here, and her other brother lives here. So in terms of who's being impacted, a lot of it is her family that she talked about having an extended family. If we talk about pictures, really, here's the view from the front. You can see the carved out piece of roof in the back, but it really doesn't impact the front very much. Here's where you can see it more directly, that existing balcony back there. And then this again is from the front. I'm not sure what that was other than just to say, well, yes, there's the view back there, there's her brother's house. And if we come down here and look at the other sort of aerial photographs, what we're talking about is this deck in the back right here being filled in to give you some idea of the three-dimensional work around it. And then this is actually a shared, so this is a shared driveway. So there's, parking basically all along in here, but where that red dot is the balcony that we're talking about. So if you go back to the numbers, the existing rear yard setback is 25.2. We're not exacerbating that that number. We are careful to just have limited ceiling height in there with clip ceilings and such to not kick it over to be a third story. So we still meet the half-story ordinance with, you know, much less of the area being less than being 5 feet or less still. You know, what we're pushing up against is the 7 foot or more area, but we're still below it. I'm just looking for those calculations. And even the FAR, we're still below the max FAR. That's you know, the 75% that's permitted in the zone. I mean, we're bumping up against it, but we're under. So in the end, we're talking about 116 square foot addition to the outside wall, and it's becomes you know, what does it become on the inside? Where you calculate the FAR, it becomes 91 and then 9. So basically, we have this, you know, low sort of ceiling line alcove in here. That's an extension of the living space. That's sort of it in a nutshell. Obviously, the idea is to match and extend the addition and make it look seamless so that it was always there, and to you know, minimize any impact on the roof by just continuing the existing roof lines to the greatest extent possible, meeting the outside walls. So I guess that's it. I can't hear anybody.
Yeah, we'll hold our questions to the end, but I think you summed it up pretty well.
Okay. Okay, I'll leave it at that. I'm sure there'll be questions, but.
All right, thank you. And then, Mr. Gerard, was there anything else you wanted to add?
Just to piggyback on what Paul had mentioned, my family surrounds me in the houses behind me, to the right, to the left, kitty corner. We share, you know, my brother's pool. So we're truly connected here and anchored here in Belmar. So we're not going anywhere.
All right, thank you. With that, we'll open it up to board questions. Why don't we start with Mr. Grieg?
Actually, I have really no questions. I would just like to be abundantly clear in the fact that the architect says that this is not going to become a 3-story home and remains a 2.5-story home. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you. That's all I had for you. It's a pretty simple application as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you, Mr. Grieg. Mr. Hutchison.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My only question is to address the leak. Are you going to re-roof that larger area than just that you know, addition, or how are you going to approach that?
Yeah. Definitely going to figure, you know, work the roof again, as I already have in the past. And you know, I from my perspective, I would assume, and again, this is an incorrect assumption, that this covering of a room would mitigate that leak coming in from, whether it's the fiberglass, the side of the house. I don't know where we don't know where it's coming from. So I would assume that would, please God, mitigate it. But
yeah, no, we were up there, I don't know, but whenever we were up there a few months ago, there's a back pitch on it. So, I mean, it's puddling in a corner. So, you know, there's no proper pitch on it. So by enclosing it, that's going to fix the leak.
So it's the deck that's probably leaking.
It's there. There's a low spot in the corner of the deck against where you walk out right now. So there's something going on. The flashing wasn't carried up enough, but there's something happening within the corner by the door where you walk out right now.
Now it seems like this is the best way to try to address it. So no other questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hutchison. Mr. Capoli.
Okay, there we go. I have no questions, but I would like to wish Mr. Gerard the best of luck trying to find that leak. And I hope you guys do. I looked for one for 25 years and never found it. So I wish you all the luck in the world. That's
Thank
all I
you.
have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Capoli. Ms. Dietz.
Hi, I don't have any question. It looks like a straightforward application, and I'm hoping it'll give you the space that you're looking for and to fix whatever inconveniences you've been having. So,
Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Zinovich.
I don't really have any questions. Just, I assume your heating and air conditioning system will be able to accommodate that additional square footage that you have in there or that you're creating?
Yes.
Okay. That's great. Okay. Yeah, I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And my only question goes back to Mr. Kennedy. I know, I guess in 2005, the zoning board approved a resolution for this property. There's no complications in what we're doing here if this were to go through.
No, I mean, in fact, this is sort of proof that our system works. I think back in 2005, we had said construction is strictly limited to this and no further action, absent approval of the board. And I think, Ted, that's sort of one of the reasons why it was sent back to us, correct?
Yes, because of the resolution.
So Mr. Chairman, we would basically, if you are inclined to approve it, one of the things you would presumably find is that this is not going to dramatically, yes, we need approval, but it's not going to dramatically change or alter the reasons and the benefits that why this board approved it back in 2005.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. All right, I have no questions. And if nobody else from the board have any additional questions, we'll open it up to the public. April, will you take it away, please?
Sure. If anyone from the public would like to comment on this application, please click the raise hand button and remember to state your name and address.
And to indulge my paranoia, if they were having computer problems, they would get in touch with you
by emailing clerk@belmar.com. All right, go ahead, Dr. Massey.
Hi, good evening all. My name is Dr. Victor Massey and I live at 112 20th Avenue.
You know what? Good evening, doctor. I'm just going to swear you in for the record. Thank you. Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide, to the extent you provide any, will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
So, just a little background. The Gerard family has been in Belmar for over 50 years, and they're a staple in the south end of town. And matter of fact, they led to the revitalization of the south end back in 2005 when they decided to redo their house. Their family is a tremendous asset to the community. And I am, the Massey family is 100% in favor of this application. And we hope the board will approve it. And I could say for the 20th Avenue beachgoers that we won't have to hear Allison telling us about the leak no more for the last 10 to 15 years. So I think it's a wonderful idea. I am a doctor and I believe as much space indoors with the mental health of plenty of my patients going on that I do believe anytime we can give any family more space in the home for any kind of private time or any kind of work, it's a benefit for the person and the whole family. So thank you for listening and I hope you approve the application.
Thank you.
Hello?
Go ahead.
Hello. Oh.
Hi, if you could just state your name and address, please.
Sure, it's Michael Radosich. I'm directly to the east of Allison at 98 20th Avenue.
All right,
Belmar.
good evening, and thank you for participating. Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide, to the extent you provide any, will be the truth, to the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
So as I said, I'm on the east side of Allison. Allison mentioned that she's surrounded by her brothers. I feel like I'm non-blood related family because I've known Allison since she's been born. Great family, and if they can get any greater utility out of their house, especially as being a year-round resident, we fully support. Great family, excellent neighbor.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi, this is Neil Gerard, Allison's older brother.
All right, we'll swear you in. Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide, to the extent you providing, will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Allison, why are you sitting on the floor? So basically, what Allison didn't mention is she's a proud executive of a medical device company, and she spends a lot of time on the floor, on the couch, in various portions of her house, and really does not have a proper office to work in. So I look forward to the day, and she's been doing very well during the pandemic, working in all these various precarious locations. But I look forward to the day where she has a proper office, can look out over the ocean, and hopefully the success she's achieved will continue and prosper long into the future. But my brother and I talked before this. We had our doubts a little bit, just no, only kidding, Al. But she never uses that deck, and we really hope that that this gets approved tonight so that she does have the proper office that she deserves. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Gerard.
Go ahead.
Geraldine Gerard, you're up next.
Hi, this is Geraldine Gerard.
Hi, if you could state your address, please.
I live with my sister in the summertime.
Okay.
So I live up north. I live at 58 Park Lane, Essex Fells, New Jersey.
Perfect. Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide, to the extent you provide any, will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
I just want to say that I strongly approve. Please let this go through, because my daughter Sadie took her office. So I think that the guilt would be released, and I would really be happy to see my sister working in an area where she can set up her computer and not on her lap and not on the table and all these locations. It would be tremendous if this was approved. I would appreciate it.
Thank you very much. All right, Ms. Sandamino.
Hi, my name is Dawn Sandamino. I live at 122 20th, which is about 5 houses down from Allison Gerard and the Gerard family on the same side of the street.
And good evening. Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide, to the extent you provide, will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
I would just like to say that the Gerard family is the gem of 20th Avenue. Allison is the queen. I hope she gets this approved. They are wonderful neighbors. They're asking for minimal changes. I can't imagine why anybody would have an objection to it. I certainly don't. Good luck, Allison. Thank you.
Thank you. And Miss
Hi,
Pizzle.
Janet Pizzolanti, 1909 A Street, Belmar.
And you
I've
swear that
known
the information
Allison and
and
her family
testimony,
for many years. They
I
are the
just need to
pillar
swear.
of the South End in our
Excuse me, I just need to
community.
swear
We
you
have
in
a
for
very
one quick
close-knit
second.
community down here, and I certainly see this as something that would be nothing but an improvement to the neighborhood. So I certainly hope you approve the application.
Thank you. Ms. Pizzolanti, can you hear us?
Yes.
Oh,
All right,
Mr.
just
Kennedy would like
for
to
the
just
record, you swear that the information you provided was truth, to the best of your knowledge, to help you God, correct?
I do.
Thank
I did.
you.
Thank you. Allison, are you buying drinks for the whole neighborhood? What's going on here?
Looks like I will be.
Go ahead, Marianne.
A name and address, please, Marianne.
It's actually Marianne's husband, Daniel Kenny, 110 20th Avenue in Belmar.
Okay. Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, to the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
Yes.
Thank you.
I apologize, my wife couldn't be on here tonight, but our property at 110 adjoins, and we have a visual of all four of the Gerard properties, inclusive of the backside of the home we're talking about. They've done nothing but help beautify not only 20th Avenue and Ocean Avenue, but the entire town of Belmar. So it has absolutely no negative impact on us. We look forward to another quality construction job joining the neighborhood. So please approve it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Kramer.
Eugene Creamer, 4th Avenue.
Hi, good evening, sir. Welcome. Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide, to the extent you provide any, will be the truth, to the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have a question. I noted on the photographs overhead utility lines, and it appears to be, I guess, on the east side of the property. Is that a utility easement, or just a property line occupation?
Paul, can you speak to that?
Yeah, no, I was almost going to bring up the picture. There's no easement. That's just the utility lines between the two properties. So the pole's on the line.
And I'm sorry, just state your name for the record again.
Me?
Who's responding?
Oh, Paul.
Sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't say it was you. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. So there is no, you can see on the survey, there's no utility easement, but whatever perspective is thrown it off. That pole is on the line. I could bring up the picture. And so so you can see from this back picture how far away it is. Though it looks, deceiving there, like it's close. You can see in the second photograph, it really is there's the pole, so it's on the property line there. So I don't know if that helps, but.
No, I guess you answered my question. In other words, that's just a utility line, or I should say, a property line occupation by the utility.
Yes, it's on the that pole is on the property line, but I mean, I suppose it's on both technically, but it's on the property line, and that line, is not close to, I mean, it's, so it's going back on the property line, but there it looks deceivingly close to that balcony, but they can't reach it. You can see in the second photograph.
Okay, well, that's a good idea. I hate to see somebody open the window and grab the line. No, I guess you answered my question. It's just a property line occupation by the utility, and that's probably going to be there forever. But I don't think you'll find any easement. There may be a pole consent by one of the property owners at the four corners, but there's not much that you're going to be able to do about that overhead utility. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kramer.
Hi, my name is Patty Fogno. I live at 1902 Surf Avenue, directly around the corner from the Gerards. Have
Good
known
evening.
them
Do you swear that the
for
information and
50
testimony you're
some
about to
years.
provide will be the truth, to the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
I just want to get on the cocktail list here, Allison, as long as you're buying drinks for the neighborhood. We have known the Gerards for many, many years. They are wonderful people. Allison deserves everything that, you can possibly give her here. She really needs this office. And since Sadie took over her workspace, I think it's only fair that you grant the approval to this. And also, I'd like to thank the zoning board for all the good work that they do.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That was the last one.
All right, thank you, April. All right, now that we're through the public portion, we're going to go back out to board comment, and we'll start with Mr. Grigg.
I don't have too much to say other than it looks like a pretty simple application and I'm in favor of it.
Thank you, Mr. Grigg. Mr. Hutchison.
Allison, you had me at fix the leak, so no problem.
Thank you, Mr. Hutchison. Mr. Capoli.
I too am in favor of the project. And again, I wish you good luck with that leak.
Thank you. Ms. Dietz.
Yes, I'm in favor of the project as well.
Thank you. And Mr. Zinovich.
I'm in favor as well. Good luck with it.
Thank you. I too am in favor of this application. Mr. Kennedy, is there anything to summarize here?
Sure. If the application is going to be approved, some of the conditions would appear to be compliance with all the rules and promises, commitments, and representations the team made tonight, obtaining any and all outside approvals. Mr. Chairman, I think we typically say complying, still comply with the prior conditions of approval from the 2005 resolution, unless obviated by tonight's vote. Allison, we usually have a 24-month time frame to make sure you get any certificate of occupancy or any agreed upon extension. Compliance with the Mr. Gregg, to your point, absolute making sure that compliance with the 2.5-story limitation, there is no variance relief. Paul's office will make sure the load capacity if we need anything like that. And I think those were the just the other standard conditions, but I think that was it, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Mr. Kennedy. All right, can I have a motion to approve the application as summarized by Mr. Kennedy?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Grigg. And a second?
Motion, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Capoli.
All right, Mr. Capoli? Nope, you're on mute. You're gonna unmute.
Yes.
Mr. Hutchinson?
Yes.
Ms. Dietz?
Yes.
Mr. Zenovich?
Yes.
Mr. Gregg?
Yes.
Mr. Lisco?
Yes. Congratulations, your application is approved.
Thank you very much. And this woman, the queen, thanks you very much. Thank you all for all of your time and your volunteering. It's greatly appreciated.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
By show of hands, does anybody need a break before we roll into the next one?
Yeah,
Yes.
I need just a couple more minutes and I'll be right back.
All right. Why don't it's 7:54. Why don't we shoot for 8 o'clock? That's 6 more minutes.
All right, it's 8:01 and we're back on the record to take roll call again. Mr. Capoli?
Here.
Mr. Hutchinson?
Here.
Mr. Fitzgerald?
Here.
Ms. Dietz?
Here.
Mr. Zenovich?
Here.
Mr. Gregg?
Here.
And Mr. Lisco is here but recusing himself.
That's right. I'm out of this now.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, what we can do is with regard to the application for 313 14th Avenue, what I'm going to ask momentarily is if anyone had any questions or comments or concerns regarding the sufficiency of the notice they received. If they do, they can raise their computer icons to be heard, or raise your hand icons to be heard, or they can contact the board secretary at
clerk@belmar.com.
I'll remember that after a couple of years. I'll remember that. So what we're going to do for the third and final time tonight, we're going to swear in Ted Bianchi. Ted, you are the zoning officer and construction official for the Borough of Belmar. Do you swear that the information and testimony you are about to provide, to the extent you provide any, will be the truth to best of your knowledge to help you God?
I do.
Okay. And what we'll do is we'll mark into the record what we as a board have before us. A1 is the development application dated November 25th, 2020. A2 is, A2 is a minor land use zoning permit, and that appears to be dated November 22nd, 2020, with a supplemental handwritten response dated November 27th, 2020. A3 is a document prepared by Michael de Blasio, PE, dated December 2nd, 2020, containing the average building setback information. A4 is a survey of the site. My survey's cut off, so I'll come back and get the exact date and prepared by. And then we have A5 will mark as the architectural renderings that have been submitted. April, has anyone raised any questions or asked to be heard on the notice?
No.
Okay, so Mr. Acting Chair, I've reviewed the notice with the board secretary and found the service to be in order, so it'd be my recommendation that we have jurisdiction to proceed. And Mr. Chair, if you're okay, I'll swear in the witnesses.
Absolutely. Let's proceed,
Okay.
Mr. Kennedy.
So who do we have testifying tonight? Mr. Custodi, is that you?
Yes, Joseph Custodi with my wife, Bridget Sarro, 313 14th Avenue, Belmar.
Okay, and Bridget, B-R-I-G-I-D?
B-R-I-D-G-E-T, and then
Okay.
Sarah, S-A-R-O.
Okay, and who else are we having testify?
And Michael de Blasio, professional engineer,
And your office address is?
307 9th Avenue, Belmar.
Okay, and Mr. de Blasio, just spell your last name, please.
D-E-B-L-A-S-I-O.
Okay, is that it? Okay, so if the three of you could please raise your right hands, do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, so let the record reflect that all three witnesses have been sworn. And then I guess just a couple, Mr. Chairman, if I could just ask a couple of preliminary questions.
Sure.
So just before I forget, I see some documents that suggesting Joseph Custodi is the applicant, and I see other things, Michael de Blasio. So just for the record, who is, just for the record's clear, who is the applicant?
Well, I'm the applicant at representing the owners.
Okay. So Mr. de Blasio is the applicant?
Yes.
Okay. And just in terms of the property that we're talking at, I think it's 313 14th Avenue, correct?
Correct.
Who is the owner of that property?
Myself, Joseph Custodi, and Bridget Sarro.
Okay. And how long have you owned it, roughly?
15 years.
We purchased it in 2006, so.
Thank you. And what exists on the property right now?
We have a 4-bedroom, 2 full bath, single family home.
Okay. And what is your proposal to do?
Our proposal is to knock down the existing home and build a new home that my wife and I can retire and live full-time in Belmar.
Great. So why don't you tell the board, or however you all want to handle this, tell the board about the your proposal and the relief that you're seeking.
Sure. We have a very long history here in Belmar. Our family has been in Belmar since the 1930s. And just so happens is the house that we have now on 14th was built in the 1930s as well. So I think it's reached its life expectancy, and it would never do for a full-time home. There's a lot of shortcomings. We have 7-foot high ceilings. We don't have any closets. There's no garage, making it very, very difficult to, live in a full-time residence. We've enjoyed it for the past 15 years, but being that we're ready to retire and move to Belmar, we're looking to make Belmar a permanent residence. So there's certain things that we need to do that. And we sat down with Mike and we went over these things that would help us have a very nice life in Belmar and give us the home that we would need to accommodate our lifestyle.
There's
And-
certain,
and-
yeah,
and-
if I
and-
could just add to
Go.
that, is there are certain features in the house that are, they're suited to the 30s, but they don't really transition well into the 21st century. The wiring, the heating, they're going to need upgrades. And at this point, it's probably better financially, a better investment financially to tear down the existing structure, build new, and in turn, I think the block would look better. There's been a lot of renovations of homes and tear downs of homes on our stretch of 14th in the past, I would say 10 years. And so we would also like to just bring our house up to the current trend and standards in the neighborhood. We're also set all the way at the back of the property. And what we would like to do is bring the house forward so that we could have a yard area and have a usable yard space, because we don't have that now. It's all in the front yard.
Thank you. And with that, Kevin, I'll speak to the variances we're requesting. There's four, three of
You know,
them
and
are,
I'm sorry, just, you're testifying tonight as an engineer, correct?
yes, sir.
So why don't you, just to make the record complete, why don't you just tell the board about your certifications and licenses?
Sure. I'm a graduate of Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. I achieved my license in professional engineering in civil engineering in 2012. I work in a lot of site development. I've done a lot of flood zone rehab work after Hurricane Sandy, and obviously I'm local here at Belmar. Been in front of this board before and many other boards in the Jersey Shore area.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, do you have any issues, or anyone on the board have any issues with the licenses and certifications?
I do
All right.
not.
Thank you.
Okay,
So Michael, why don't you continue?
Right. So about the four, so we have four, three site variances and one regarding the design of the home. The three site variances are now, what we're proposing is a single family 2.5 story with a single car garage. The lot is only 40 feet wide, so that makes it pretty tight for any reasonable size with house, and with a good driveway, I should say, with a wide enough driveway for a car to get to a garage. So I'll share my screen in a second after I speak about it. So we have the house set further to the west, which puts us in the side yard setback encroachment. We're asking for 3 feet where the requirement is 5. That causes or brings us to some construction code things such as a firewall on that side of the house that'll be picked up on the architecturals. And then with the size of the lot, which is less than your standard, your 50 by 150, we do encroach on the building coverage. We're requesting 37.5% coverage where 30 is allowed, and the lot coverage we're requesting 60.1% where 55% is allowed. Both I feel are reasonable requests with the size of the lot. Everything else, the impervious coverages will all be grassy areas or landscaped. And the drainage will all be able to be contained on site. The fourth variance is a personal request of the custodians. They drove around town looking at houses. When we first met this summer, I said, tell me what you like, tell me, what you saw built, what do you like to, as you design. I brought in my architect, Matt Evans, who's not here, but we've worked together for 15 years. So I can speak about his, the elevations and the concepts that we have here. And the one request is that over the front porch, they have a balcony off of the master bedroom, and they're requesting a roof to be able to be built over that. And that's not permitted in the standard ordinances. So I can, think I can share my screen, see if this is allowed. Let's see, okay. Did that work?
Yes, it did.
Okay, good. So here's the proposed site plan. So we see the proposed 2.5 story dwelling. We performed all of our 3rd story calcs on it already. You see on the right side here, we have our 3-foot setback to the west side, allowing for a nicer driveway, obviously with the 1-foot setback on the east side. We have our parking spaces, either a paved or concrete driveway, calculated and going back to the one-story garage. We do have a 17-foot front yard setback. I've provided the calculations for the average fronts. We're about a foot behind that, not requiring a variance, so a foot on the good side, I should say. And so obviously we're not overdeveloping anything here. You can see the house, nothing overtaking the property with the garage and the driveway. And then as far as the architectural layouts, if you zoom in over here, what Ted will tell you is this roof over this porch is actually Joe sent me a picture from a house on 5th Avenue that was built last year. And he said, man, I really like the double peaks. I like the roof over the porch. And I put that on the drawings, not even realizing, and Ted picked up that requires a variance. And that was, I think, in the 400 block on 5th Avenue, was constructed in 2020, something just like this. And then you'll see we have the 4-bedroom and just the standard layout, just to run through what the house looks like. We standard open concept on the first floor, the 4 bedrooms on the second floor, and then a finished attic space with our third story, the half story calculation, already performed, with the balcony out on the east side of the third story also. So that's the rundown. So as they did say, let me go back to the site plan. Currently, the house is basically where the garage is. It's way back. I don't know if it's more than 5 feet back there. I could pull up the old site plan, the original survey. Kevin, you asked for the date of the first survey. Did you need that?
Yes.
It's November 23rd.
Okay.
That's the survey by Lakeland Surveying you were asking, the original?
Yes, that's November 23rd of 2020. I'm sorry, November 23rd, 2020?
Yeah, that's with the front yard setbacks that I have here.
Okay, and that's Lakeland Surveying. Thank you.
Correct. Yeah, that was the only other thing I had printed out for you. So I'll open it to questions. Again, these are the three site variances and the one regarding the porch over the roof over the porch.
So, Mr. de Blasio, before we open to board questions, could you just please restate the specific variances that you seek?
Sure. Building coverage, we're seeking 37.5. Obviously 30 is allowed. Lot coverage, 60.1. Side yard setback, 3 feet. And that's, as I explained, on the west side here. And the area over the porch will have a roof, which is it's a balcony off of their master bedroom.
Okay. Is that the end of your presentation and testimony?
Yes, sir.
Great. Okay. So with that, we'll open to board questions, and I'll start with Mr. Hutchinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My major concern is the 3-foot setback. If you're doing new construction, I really think that is, infringing on the neighbor's property when you get that close. I know you can put, firewall rated or, fire rated drywall and things like that, but it looks like the other existing structure is quite close to the property line too. And
yes,
that just is, that makes me very uncomfortable. The other things you're asking for, I don't have too much trouble with, but I really would like to see you move that to the required 5 feet. I know that probably changes substantially some of the things that happen with the structure itself because of the driveway requirements and things like that. But I think for new construction, if it was existing and you wanted to perpetuate that, I could get behind that. If you were additioning or using the foundation that was already there, but with new construction, I'm just not that comfortable. I know I'm doing more of a comment than a question, but I guess my question to you is really would you think about very seriously moving that to 5 feet so that you're in that requirement area in that that particular area?
So that may be probably the most important one for us, simply because of the lot width is 40 feet. The house is only 25 feet. We're not building a monster home here. 25 feet is as narrow as it gets when it comes to this or not as narrow as it gets, but pretty narrow when it comes to a single family new construction home where you're trying to develop open floor plan and things like that, you know, center hallway. When you go more narrow than that, you develop, you know, size of bedrooms get tighter, you know, like the old days, you know, small bedrooms and things like that. If you move the house the 2 feet and keep the same 25 feet, we are left with a 9.2 foot driveway. We're 12.2 feet now. Let me see. Let me just confirm that. Yeah, so we're 12 feet to the other side yard. Moving the other 2 feet, that would be a 10 foot. That'd be 10 feet, 10.2 feet to the house, and then you're 1 foot back. So that's a 9.2 foot driveway, which is, you know, pretty very narrow. I mean, that's almost the limit. The minimum is 9 feet. So that is one of the setbacks that we really are seeking you know, relief on, simply because of the lot size. I mean, we can't make the lot any wider.
I would rather consider a variance for the driveway width than I would for the 5 foot or 3 foot setback. So that's all the questions I have.
Thank you, Mr. Hutchison. We're going to go to Phil, Mr. Craig next, if you're ready, Phil.
Thank you, Mark. A couple of questions. I agree with Mr. Hutchinson on moving the house, which would, I guess, to the left. I think, I don't know which direction of the compass it is, but moving the house 2 feet to the left and narrowing up that driveway. But also on the right side, in that 3 foot side yard, do you have a set of steps that are in there? Is 2 or 3 steps that are in there? Did I see it in one of the prints?
No, nothing else. It would just be the house. There's the AC unit is off the back of the house. You're looking at the covered porch in the front is obviously coming off the front of the house, but the steps are off of the front. Maybe you were just looking at some of the grade elevations that look like steps.
Is a proposed right side elevation? Does that show a door there?
No. Let me share my screen again. Let's see. How's that?
Let's not look at the site plan. Let's look at the elevations.
But I think, is this what you're referring to?
No. There's behind the porch. There's a window. There's 2 windows and then a door on the proposed right side elevation.
Oh, that's an error. There's no steps coming off that side of the house.
And there's no door there?
No. Let me go to this. Let me go to the floor plan. Yeah, on the.
There's a mudroom.
Oh, that has to be eliminated. We can't come in that side. I apologize. I didn't notice that.
Mr. Kennedy, Mr. Kennedy, could you please note, I'm not tracking the drawing numbers, but that the, I believe that said the right side elevation, there's a door reflected on the plan. And that needs to be revised for no door. And then on the first floor plan, there is a mudroom or it says mudroom with a door swinging in reflected on the first floor. And that needs to be modified as well. I'm not really sure what the protocol is here. Ted, maybe you know, or Mr. Kennedy, you know, but when we have a significant change to a plan like that, do we require modified plans to be submitted, or do we allow these verbal comments to take precedence? Because I don't like the blueprints being wrong.
Yeah, so excellent question. So a couple of things, and I'm going to give you an answer that when I would give to my mother and father, they would be upset. The answer is it depends. I mean, certainly if it's something that's major that you feel is going to change the look and change the design and change the orientation of the whole thing, and you don't know what you're being asked to review and approve, you could say, look, just to avoid any confusion, we need new plans.
Mr. Kenny, can I stop you there?
Sure.
I think something as critical as an entryway is major. I can't speak for the rest of the board. But for my own purposes, I just am not comfortable reflecting an entryway that isn't going to be there.
Well, I want to defer this to Joe and Bridget because they, at this point, I mean, I spoke that, we had the house at 5 feet and before we made our final submittal, we did move it to the 3 feet because of the driveway. And that, I guess myself, our architect, and Joe and Bridget never thought that would be something of further issue. Obviously the 3 feet being an issue with you off the bat. Joe, are you, I don't know if they want to redesign the house either. So let's just stick, we may be asking for that. Is that a separate variance if you have steps going to the 3 feet setback?
Mr. de Blasio, could you just pause for a second? I want to make a comment, and I personally am going a little bit out of order here, and I think we may have to hear from the rest of the board when it comes to these matters. But we've had 2 board members speak. 2 have already expressed concern about the 3-foot setback. When it's my turn to speak, I would express a similar concern. If the plan is to go back to, as you originally stated, Mr. de Blasio, a 5 and keep your side entry, that would be a great compromise and a great solution in my mind. But again, the rest of the board hasn't spoken yet. So perhaps you want to hear from the rest of the board members, and then you guys could confer and make your decision.
Yes.
Good idea.
Would that be fair?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, Mr. Craig, great point. Anything else you'd like to bring up?
Well, if we do leave that mudroom entry there, the steps will then be in the 5 foot. Is that part of the building? That would be a question for Ted, I guess.
Yeah, no, that would be a problem. It's a variance.
So you still have a variance, but it's not the whole house in that area, it's just a set of steps in that area. And what was there, 2 or 3 steps there? I didn't see that. I'm not sure that reflects accurately what's there because we'd have to know the height of it. Looks like 3 steps, 6 inches a step. That's well, we don't know the depth of the tread. It's an 8 1/4 inch tread, and you got 3 steps.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's got to go 2 feet, two feet into the setback.
Right. We've done the water table calculations, everything. So we know the house, there's no basement. So we're not going to be raising the house really high to get a full basement. So it'll be fairly low to the ground within 2 feet, the finished floor to the ground.
2 feet would be maybe 4 steps.
Right.
At 8 1/4 inch a step, you're in the neighbor's yard.
At 3, if it's
no, it would be more likely that we built a small platform and aimed the steps towards the backyard.
I'm sorry. I think might be going a little off track here. The original comment was if it was going to be a 3-foot setback, the door would be eliminated.
Correct.
So I think if it's a 5-foot setback, Mr. Craig, I don't think that you'd be in the neighbor's yard, but you would, for the purposes of the steps, require a very minor side setback variance as opposed to the entire house being in the setback. So if that's not the case or I'm mistaken, I'd ask that Mr. de Blasio please correct that understanding.
No, that was the understanding, and I'm going to leave, Mr. Custodi as a decider. But I agreeing with you that if we go with the 3 feet, we can't have a door there because there's no way to get out of the house or into the house with a 3-foot setback.
Michael, can I say something?
Sure.
You're going to need a platform outside that door, a 3-foot platform.
Right. That's what I was trying to state with
that's going to be 3 feet into that. Right. So you're going to be up to the property line with the platform.
Correct.
So you have to make a decision then. Are you going to move the house 2 feet and then put a 3-foot platform there, and you're still going to initiate a variance on it. You're still
Correct.
2 feet from the property line. Or maybe not reducing the driveway 2 feet, but reduce the house 1 foot and the driveway 1 foot. I don't know how much that enters into the design of the house and how much trouble that's going to cause. Just a thought.
Well, I guess I'll go back to Mr. Fitzgerald because we were kind of waiting for the rest of the board, but we're coming up with some solutions here. So
Well,
what should we do?
you'll bundle all the concerns, and then, if they're all common, that's one point. If they're a variety, but I'd like Mr. Craig to have the opportunity to finish if he has additional points he wants to raise.
I'd like to ask you where you're going to run any runoff from the roof, any gutters and leaders that come down. Where is that going to dump?
They'll be going towards the backyard, which will be grassy areas, or again, the landscape areas in the front with splash blocks.
Okay. The only last thing I have is let's hear from the rest of the people on the board, but either that door goes or the house moves, and I'd much prefer the house move. I don't like encroaching on your neighbor like that. So we'll hear from the rest of the board. We'll see where we stand with that.
Thank you. That was a very astute observation. Thank you very much. I'd like to go to Ms. Dietz next.
Yes, thank you. Well, actually, I had a question regarding the setback, and I'm not sure. It was really to do, your existing setback is close now. So in coming up with these new plans, I don't know if you've you've been there for 15 years, you guys have said, in terms of comments and conversations with your neighbor, that it would be that 3 feet with the encroachment back there. But again, I'm not sure if it's relevant at this point when you're looking to make that change, but I was just curious before that discussion started about conversations that you may have had with your neighbor about the design of the house.
Well, for the past 15 years, and I've been in Belmar for 55 years, going on 56 years. And for 15 years, we've had rentals next to me, and we put up with a lot, noise and partying, and we were very good about it. Never filed a complaint, kept the property clean, even when there was a lot of nonsense going on at the back of the house, some illegal issues and things of that nature. But we forewent all of that and decided that this is where we want to retire, live. I don't want the door on the side of the house, but I feel the driveway is very important because 14th is a very narrow block. There's very limited parking in the summer. There's no parking at all. It's not good at all. So for us, a driveway would affect, the quality of our life because we would have, no place to park our cars, and to invest $1 million into this street and into Belmar is pretty much our life savings. So although it doesn't seem like 2 feet is that much, but to us, it's a quality of life issue when you don't really have adequate parking, for this kind of investment. And to spend, our life here, I don't think that we're really asking for that much, and I don't think it'll be that much of a imposition on the neighbors, especially what we've had to put up with over the past 15 years. The new neighbors happen to be very nice. I think they have, taken care of the property very well. It's still rental,
But it's still
front and
rental.
back.
Yeah.
It's still rental, and we're okay with that being what it is. We're looking for the future of Belmar, and that's where our investment is. We believe in Belmar, and we hope that we'll be able to retire here.
With respect to the neighbors, if you're looking at our house, the neighbors to our left, we have a very good relationship with them. They're full-time. I don't think they would have any issues with a 3-foot setback with respect to the driveway. Actually, their driveway and our driveway would abut one another, and their garage is set back with where our proposed garage structure would be. The neighbors to the right, it's 2 rental units. And I think one of the board members accurately noted that those 2 houses are very close to the property line. So if we have to forego a doorway to a mudroom in the first floor, that's fine. We don't need that door outside. I just don't want to change the interior or the footprint of the house or the layout or start shortening the house just to have a door or steps. That doesn't make sense to me. So with respect to the neighbors to the right, not having a door there, I don't think it's going to affect them. If anything, it really affects us more because those two structures are right close to the property line. So to not have a door there would be fine. I think we do need the driveway. We do need that setback on the driveway. And with respect to the shortening the house, that would really affect the size of the house. So I don't think that that would be something, we'll listen to the rest, but I right off the bat, I just feel that that would really affect the whole look and layout and of the house that we're trying to build and the investment that we're trying to make into this house.
Ms. Dietz, any further questions?
That's all that I had. Thank you.
Okay, great. I'd like to move to Anne Marie now. Ms.
Hi, everyone.
Trzinovich.
Thank you.
Trzinovich. I'll get it right.
Okay, so let's see. So I was glad to hear that you're willing to not have the door over there on that side that we've been talking about, because that seems like the best move, to not have that there and to allow you the 3 feet there. And I understand all the points that you were just raising. A question I have is, so you have a utility pole, like that's next to your driveway. Is there any possibility with your construction that you're able to get the wires underground? I didn't see, if that utility pole feeds other houses or if it just goes to yours.
We also have a utility pole right behind our house as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the best construction and what we'll do our best to do would, from the back, take an overhead from the back pole to the garage and then run underground to the house. That'd be, probably, a lot of times that works out for a lot of people.
So, but that front utility pole will probably still remain there right next to the driveway.
Yeah, the pole will still, yeah. Can't remove that.
I think it services other homes and then there are other homes attached to it and.
Right. And you have the driveway is on the plan, it says proposed asphalt. And I think Mr. de Blasio, you said possibly concrete. Considering the building coverage and the lot coverage variances that you're looking for, would you consider pervious pavers and or, a grass strip down the middle of the driveway, something like that to help with runoff and absorption?
I mean, impervious pavers, as you know, compared to concrete or asphalt, is a significant cost increase. I'll leave that up to the custodians if they want to, go with that expense. But we're not going like we're asking for 75 or 80% lot coverage. It's only 60%. We still have every means of keeping the runoff from this house on the property with good, grass coverage.
Right, but the existing lot doesn't have any trees either. At least from the street view that I saw when I was there the other day. And I didn't see a landscape plan here. So it doesn't seem like you're planning to plant any trees that would help with stormwater runoff and absorption. So, along the lines of just addressing that type of an issue, those are things that I'd like to raise as a concern, and if you could address them by either planting some trees, small trees on the lot in the front, on the side, in the back, wherever, and consider doing something, at least grass in the sidewalk, if not the pervious pavers, to improve the absorption. I think those would be those are my concerns. That's all that I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Trzinovich. And I think it's Mr. Capoli's up now.
Okay, I agree with a lot of my colleagues on almost everything that they've said. Lastly, the pavers instead of asphalt. I would like to see pavers, even if it's just strips. It doesn't look bad. I would prefer that. I would also prefer that the doorway on the side be eliminated, and or we can move the house, and you'll still have plenty of width for, in my calculations, to get a car in there. And we would be further away from your neighbor if the house was shifted. Don't make the house any smaller. I wouldn't want you to do that, just to shift it. Now, my next question would be to Ted. Ted, isn't it usually 10 and 5 what's required? 15 feet, 10 on one side and 5 on another, or a minimum of 10 on one?
What zone? I don't know what, this is on 14th Avenue.
Yeah.
I think it's R40.
I don't have the chart in front of me. What zone is that?
R40, Ted, I think.
It's an R40? That's probably a 5 and a 5.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, at least that's what the application says, R40.
Yeah.
I didn't look at that. I'm sorry.
I think that's 5 and 5.
Okay, so without then that, I thought it was 10 and 5. I apologize for that. So it's 5 and 5 minutes. I would like to see the side door removed, because also you're going to have, I'm sure you're not going to walk up to that door on grass. Going to put some sort of stone or pavers or something there. So it just throws something else into the equation. I'd like to see that door go. And I also agree with the utilities coming from the back and going to the garage and stuff is great. Do you guys plan on putting a generator on site for the house at some future date?
We'd like to,
Yeah.
in case, yeah.
Well, putting your service in from the back and putting it into the garage is a plus. Because you could probably put that generator back there and follow the setbacks and not really need a variance. So it's something to consider. Coming from the back into the garage and then coming underground to the house, it would benefit you in that area. But again, the big thing with me was I would like to see that side door gone, and I would like to see pavers. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Capoli. And I think it's left with me. Just a very minor point, but on here there's a vinyl shed that seems to straddle the property line. Is that, could you please explain that?
That's
not theirs.
That's our neighbor's shed that he has, like, a lot of his, like, I don't know if he puts his recycling or tools in it. I'm not sure, but it's our neighbor's, and it's kind of in between the properties. It's not really an issue with
Okay,
us.
well, if it would be of any relief to you, I mean, we as a board could say, we would like to see that land on one piece of property or the other as we approve it, but
we have a very good relationship with.
I mean, you
with
could blame us for creating that requirement, but regardless, it's difficult. You guys, I think I have a question at the end, but I just want to make a comment first. It's great that you're building a house, and we understand the constraints with a 40-foot wide home. The typical build we see coming with a 40-foot wide is 5 on one side, a 25-foot wide house, 5 on one side, 10 on the other.
No, it's 5 on the other, Mark. It's 5 and 5. Total of 10 combined.
Right, but to get a driveway, it's a 5-foot on one side, 10-foot drive, and a 25-foot home.
Right.
On a 40-foot lot.
Right.
All day, every day. Many applications. Many architects figure it out. And I think that having the side entry as designed and as the plan shows, it's a wonderful flow of the home. And I'm very concerned about us approving a side yard setback. I'm also concerned about the lack of clearance on that other structure as you face the house on the right-hand side, because it appears that they're also in the setback. I mean, that's not your fault, nothing you can do about it. But if they came up in front of the board, I would expect them to respect the 5-foot setback on that side of the property line as well. So it is a concern of mine, as it seems like with many of the other people on the board. So, you know, I think you're going to have some decisions that you're going to need to make here, but you know, I guess if I want to put it in the form of a question, as Alex Trebek would say, would you consider sticking with the design that you have and just moving it 2 feet?
I have one follow-up question to also alert the custodians. If they agreed to that, would we be able to ask for the variance of the 1 foot setback on the driveway? Because the neighbor side on the east, their driveway is right on the property line also. So could we get another foot of the driveway if that were, you know, approved, if the custodians agreed to that? So it's hard to ask them because they're not next to me. So Kevin, is that something we could ask for if that's the direction?
I think I could answer the question. You could ask for anything that you choose.
Right.
I think that if you were to move the home and needed some relief because there's some steps that go into setback, that would be a very minimal thing to be asking for. And the 10-foot wide driveway is fairly standard. So I don't think that that's anything that would be considered extraordinary.
So to summarize, and I'm talking to Joe and Bridget here, if it seems likely that the board is in favor of moving the house, but instead of the 9-foot driveway, you get the extra foot, you could ask for the extra foot so that you're up against the property line, because there was the reason we had the 9-foot driveway was there's a 1 foot setback requirement on the driveway from your east property line. So you would get a 10-foot driveway on the east, 5-foot setback, you keep the mudroom door. We ask for a variance for steps or a platform, which is required, and steps down to the front or back, whichever direction you want. And you ask for those 2 variances instead of the 3-foot setback. And in turn, you're also reducing your construction cost with not needing the fire rated wall on the west side.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, can I just say one thing also?
Sure.
Because I know that this is, I totally appreciate the board's concerns and your willingness to share them. And I think that is the right thing to do. My only caution is I feel sometimes sensitive about applicants having to feel that they have to make a decision, you know, maybe they've spent a long time. So, Mr. Chairman, I think as you were indicating, if the applicants feel the need to sort of take the proverbial time out and think about it and come back, that's always an option, because I don't want them to feel pressured or feel that, you know, they
Okay.
don't make a,
Mr. Kennedy, let me repeat back what you just said, and then also turn it over to the custodies and appreciate how nervous you are and how difficult this process is. So please understand that we get it, right? Mr. Kennedy, are you suggesting we take like a quick break now that they could
well,
speak
I
to
mean,
each other?
I didn't know. I just didn't want the applicants to feel that they had to redesign their whole house in the 2 minutes and in front of all these peering eyes. So I
Okay, well, for
the
custody's sake, in case they're not familiar, we're closing up the board comment section now. Board question, board comment, which is, you know, what we've just gone through, you know, give you an opportunity to speak before we leave the session. We would then go to hear from the public, okay? And then we would come back for further board comment, which would likely be reflective of the questions that we just asked. So with that, you guys could decide, would you like to take like 5 minutes and speak together privately? And I could take a quick break right now. You guys could decide what you're thinking here. But when you come back, we would go to public session.
He was also saying that if they need more time, they could come to the next meeting.
Yes, absolutely. You don't have to decide tonight. So please don't feel the pressure. I know it's difficult to think it's going to have to go through another meeting, but by all means, you could think it over and come back next month.
We could talk about it if we're gonna go to, if we're gonna take a break, then we'd like to just speak to Mr. de Blasio about some of the things that you've raised, and then we can come back and hopefully we have a decision, or if the decision is that we come back in another month, then but just so we can have that time to chat amongst
Okay,
ourselves.
does that sound acceptable to the rest of the board if we were to break now for 10 minutes and reconvene at 9 p.m.?
Sure.
Does that sound good? Okay, try to be back 9 p.m. sharp, guys. Thank you much.
All right, so it's 9:00 p.m. We're back on the record. Take roll call. Mr. Capoli? Can I unmute?
Here.
Mr. Hutchinson?
Here.
Mr. Gregg? He's also here.
We're here.
Mr. Fitzgerald?
Yeah.
Ms. Dietz?
Here.
And Mr. Zenovich?
Here.
Okay, we're about to go to public portion, but I was just wondering if the custodies or Mr. de Blasio wanted to make any comments before we went to the public portion.
Yeah, so we did speak, and I explained a little bit more on what moving the house and getting a 10-foot driveway would mean to the custodies, and then keeping the mudroom door without having to redesign the house. And their interest is to get this moving along and get into construction drawings as fast as we can. So we'd like to ask for the variances on the no side yard setback, but keeping the steps on the west side, which is adjoining the house that's very close, and then asking for the driveway variance so we can have a 10-foot wide driveway going back to the garage.
Excellent. Any comments on the board or before we open up to the public session? Yes, Mr. Capoli.
We're doing the driveway. Has a decision been made whether it's going to be pavers or blacktop?
Well, they're looking to keep the either concrete or asphalt. We're looking to maintain the 60% requested lot coverage. It's not a large ask, Mr. Capoli.
No, it's not, but it's something that I think would make, number one, it look better. You get less runoff. Get the water, a lot of rain coming down, it'll be running off, going in the street. Summertime freeze, wintertime freeze. That's my concern.
If I could add to that a little bit as well. So if the door is now going to be there on the west side of the house, is there going to also be a sidewalk or entry from the street?
Nothing pervious. It would be either a gravel with possibly a stepping stone, or nothing with coverage.
Also regarding the water runoff, we're not going with a basement, so we'll have no sump pump. Our neighbors next door have a sump pump, and that pumps water into the street 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And the amount of ice that we get in front of our driveway is very, very hazardous. If it wasn't for our neighbor John Bradle, which is 311, helping us out and chopping the ice up constantly, in that situation. So there is the issue there, but
The water runoff problem isn't really from our property.
it's not from the roofs or the gutters.
one
It's
next
from the
door.
sump pump next door
A lot of
pumping.
people have their sump pumps a lot of people set their sump pumps too low. They don't realize that they're pumping the water table actually. Okay, so thank you for Mr. Capoli. Thank you for your comment. Any other regarding the modifications that it seems that they're willing to make? Do any of the board members, before we go to public portion, have any additional comments?
Yeah,
Ted
Mark,
Bianchi, Phil, I see you. Ted raised his hand. I'm going to go to him first, if you don't mind.
Right.
I have a question, Mike. You're going to have to put a platform out there.
Yes.
So that's going to be a 3-foot platform. You're going to be 2 foot from the property line.
Correct.
You're going to have steps leading, I guess, towards the front of the house. What are you going
to? Front or back.
So what are you going to put down for a walkway?
Either gravel or
Gravel is impervious.
Then can we do Stepping
stones,
stone.
if you put pavers, if you put, like 12-inch blocks, each one of those is
Right.
impervious, so you're gonna add the lot coverage by doing that. I just don't know how much you're adding here, that's all.
Right, it'll be pretty minimal, maybe grass with stepping stone we could add. I mean, what would it be? Maybe 4 steps? You're talking,
Yeah.
10 square feet total. I mean,
If you wouldn't mind, while we continue, if you did the math on that, we would adjust the lot coverage or the impervious coverage percentage by that square footage, Mr. de Blasio. And then when we go to vote, you might increment up a percentage or two, de minimis, and we're actually causing that to happen by asking you to move the home 2 feet. So
yes, thank you.
I think that would be a reasonable compromise and a better outcome both for the neighbor and for the board. So
you got it.
Okay, Phil, can you you had a question, Phil?
Yeah, what Ted pointed out is what I was going to say. If they're going to put any kind of a walk like gravel, which is 100% impervious, or stepping stones, it's going to all adds to the impervious, as does the platform and the steps. They also have to be calculated in. But if you look at the ground floor plan where the mudroom is, to me, that's on the side of the house. I'm thinking nobody's ever going to walk in that door. That's not a door that's going to be used. You're going to use the front door or the back door. And you could take that area of the mudroom and add to the powder room that's right forward of it, and have instead of a 5-foot powder room, have a much larger. The mudroom, I think, is about almost 4 foot. You could almost have 9-foot powder room there instead of a 5-foot powder room on that first floor, making it much more a nicer room. And I swear, I can't imagine anybody using the mudroom. I understand the purpose of mudrooms, but I don't see anybody using it, using that door and using it as a mudroom. I'm not sure how you planned it, but that's what it looks like to me. The other thing is that you're not really convincing me yet that you really need that almost 25-foot wide house. You could reduce the width of the house. If you look at all the rooms and take a little bit off of each room, you could reduce the width of that house and still have what you have. It's a pretty, you're asking quite a lot for the size of the lot and the way the neighborhood is overbuilt. So a 5-bedroom house on that size lot is a lot to ask.
It's 4 bedroom. It's 4 bedroom. 4 bedroom.
4.
And the master bedroom?
Including the master bedroom.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't see a master bedroom as counted as 1. I thought it was in addition to the 4 that were there. I'm sorry. So I grant you that. You're the 4-bedroom house. I feel a little bit better about that. But I think you could reduce the width of that house by a little bit and get everything that you need. Get a 5-foot side yard, get the driveway that you like, not encroaching on either of your neighbors on either side. Even putting that driveway close to the property line, which we could allow you to do if we so decided, but now you're putting your car doors next to your neighbor's car. They're going to hit your car with a door, you're going to hit their car with a door. I don't like getting that close if we can find another way around it.
Well, there's a fence there, sir, between the properties, which will remain. There is a fence.
Oh, okay.
So that wouldn't be an issue. And, giving up the 3, not doing the 3 feet on the one side going to 5, we feel that, we can kind of make it work all the way around. But now, in addition to that, making the house another foot smaller, it doesn't seem like much until you have to live in a house that's narrow. Even 25 feet wide is quite narrow, and it does affect, everything.
Okay. All right. I'd like to be able to move forward. Mr. Craig, do you have any other?
No, you go ahead. I know what I got to do.
Okay, great. Okay. So, again, reiterating that, the 25, the 5 on one side, the 25 and the 10 is fairly standard for a 40-foot lot. To follow up on Mr. Craig's suggestion, if we were to approve it as presented with a 5-foot setback plus the additional lot coverage for stepping stones, and the platform needing to be built, you could always have the option, as Mr. Craig suggested, not to do that and have it be a solid wall and buy back that interior space. So, you know, I think that that could be a decision that you can make later, assuming that the board would be in favor of allowing the side or continuing with the side entrance with the 5-foot setback. So just please keep that in mind as we move forward. And as the board gives their comments, you know, those are things to just consider, because you could subtract, you couldn't add back. In other words, if we approve it without a side door, you can't go back and add a side door later. So you might want to start there and then decide later, as Mr. Craig's suggestion, when you go over the blueprints, to say you don't really need it, you're not really going to use it as he suggested. So he's probably correct in that assumption. But anyway, with that, I'd like to open up the public portion. Mr. Kennedy, do you have a comment regarding public portion before I go forward?
Sure. I just wanted to state for the record, we received, April received a letter today from a concerned neighbor who expressed some concerns. The problem is in this quasi-judicial world in which we as zoning boards operate, case law suggests, it got a little muddy to the water with some of the emergency proclamation regulations, but case law suggests that we really shouldn't accept letters, because we can't cross-examine letters. We can't say, hey, would you be happier if X, or would you be happy or less, you know, all those things. So the individual, I tried calling, but the number listed on his letterhead appears to have one more digit than is required. So I did not get him. So I'm hoping that individual's here, particularly as they're talking about plan revisions. But anyway, hopefully he is one of the members of the public, although his letter did say he was not available to participate tonight. But anyway, so I guess, Mr. Chairman, we'll open it up to the public.
Yes. If anyone from the public would like to speak about this application, please click on the raise hand button, and our competent board secretary will manage the line.
Okay, go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, if you can just state your name and address, please.
Yeah, John Bradle, 311 14th Avenue.
All right, good evening. Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide, to the extent you provide any, will be the truth, to the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
My name is John Bradle. I live at 311 14th Avenue. I have been here for 23 years. I have seen this street go from animal house to an incredibly friendly family neighborhood. Joe and Bridget, next door to me, need to have their house changed. They need to have this addition put on. They need the reconstruction, and I am 100% for it. If they infringe on my property, I have no worries about that. And they deserve it.
Thank you, Mr. Bradle. Anything else?
Mr. Bradle.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you
Mr.
very
Bradle.
much.
So yes, he's talking to you.
Yeah, you're 311 14th Ave, so you're the direct east neighbor?
Yes, I am.
Okay, where we would be requesting the driveway variance, just to clarify. Thank you.
I am the eastern neighbor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else, April?
Hello?
Hey, Mark, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks,
Mr.
Mark.
Kennedy?
Sure. Good evening. If you could just state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, Mark Presto, 110 13th Avenue.
And do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide, to the extent you provide any, will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
There's often always issues about impervious coverage, and often ways to address that, or one that you had mentioned, is to have the semi-pervious pavers. And I know they're expensive, and I can certainly understand that. I have them. But there was always other suggestions, such as having dry wells as a way to help mitigate some of the impervious issues that come about. Can you still hear me? I'm getting a message. My internet connection is unstable.
No, we
Nope,
can
we
hear
can
you.
hear you.
Okay.
Hear you fine.
So I don't think it's that very expensive when you're building new construction, and might help alleviate some of the concerns that were addressed tonight. That's all.
Thank you for that suggestion, Mr. Presto.
Linda Sharkus, 4th Avenue.
Good evening, and do you swear the information and testimony you're about to provide, to the extent you provide any, will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
So I think it's great that you're building a house. And I just need to remind everybody here that the variances go with the land, not with the people. So I understand, you know, you don't think you have good neighbors on the one side, but if these variances are granted, the next guy is going to want the same thing. So that's why I think it's important to make sure the setbacks, when possible, can be honored. And I think that's important. It's not about giving you or denying you something, but I think the board should consider what's in the best interest of the town for properties of this size. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sharkus. April, anyone else?
That was it.
That's it. Okay. All right, thank you. Unless I'm missing something, I think we would move to the area where we open it up for board comments. And trying to respect the prior order, if I have it right, I believe I started with Mr. Hutchinson.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Chairman. I want to say my appreciation for you, for the applicants to agree to meet the setback. I think one of the factors, and I didn't mention it before, but one of the factors I'm concerned about with the 3-foot setback is the neighbors, the eaves of the house. I mean, I think it's only 3 feet about what they have for their existing setback, and then the eaves of the house even closer. And having been where we live, we had a house burned to the ground just a few houses from us, and we saw it jump from house to house. And that was one of the worst evenings, I think, of my wife and myself watching that happen. And 5 foot is not a huge amount, but every little bit helps. And I think I often look at some place like Ocean Grove and wonder, you know, my gosh, if a fire starts there, it's just going to go right through. So I really appreciate you considering maintaining that 5 foot setback. I'm really very comfortable with that. So I'd be in favor of the application if that's the way we're going to go.
Thank you, Mr. Hutchison. Ms. Dietz is up next.
Hi, thank you. Yes, I too appreciate the amount of time and work that goes into planning the home, and when you're working with a lot that is considerably smaller, just some of the restrictions that you have. And so I'm sure it wasn't an easy discussion or decision to have, but really appreciate the flexibility that you're showing to make the changes. And I would be in favor. I would like to see more pervious if it was a way. I certainly understand the cost issue of it. But I do know that certain areas you really do, as you said, in the wintertime, you have such issues with the water. And I know there's lots of that is going around in different parts of Belmar. So if there's a way that we can look into doing that without being cost prohibitive, I would like to see that, but I would be in favor of the application at this time.
Thank you, Ms. Dietz. I believe Ms. Drazenovich was the next speaker. Mute, off mute.
Sorry. Hi, everyone. Sorry about that. I appreciate the change to I go back to the 5-foot setback. I think that's a significant improvement. And I do still think that the pervious percentages are something that I would like to see addressed. Like I said, either I understand the pavers are expensive, but if maybe a grass strip in the driveway could be helpful, or perhaps the dry wells that the person, a fellow resident mentioned, could be something you could look into. I live on a very narrow lot, probably one of the smallest lots in Belmar myself. And I also have a neighbor whose sump pump drains constantly. So I feel your pain in a lot of those respects. But I would support your application as well.
Thank you so much. And Mr. Capoli, you are up next.
I love the design of the home. I like everything. I think it's going to be a nice little layout. I am still not comfortable with that blacktop driveway. I don't know which way I'm going to go at the moment. I wish the impervious coverage could be a bit less. And I'm still running it through my mind, hashing it over. So I'm going to hold my comment for the moment. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Capoli. And Mr. Craig.
First thing I'd like to ask of the engineer, did you revise your calculations on the impervious?
I didn't know when to jump in there.
That's okay, do it now.
Adding about 30 square feet, it's 0.8 something percent. So it would be about 61% total, which I think would be just a round number to look at approving. That's with the driveway at 10 feet, moving everything over the 2 feet there.
Okay, and we have now agreed
actually, I gotta say, because the driveway was only 1 foot back and we're moving the house 2 feet, the driveway shrunk 1 foot also.
Yes.
So we're gonna end up being less than the 60.1 because the 1 foot strip of is not gonna come up. So I mean, it's gonna be basically, I don't know if you understand what I mean?
I see what you mean.
The driveway was set at 1 foot. We're moving the house 2, and we're only picking up 1 on that.
So 1 foot's getting subtracted off the driveway for the length of the house.
So now you're taking 50 feet. Now you're taking 50 square feet off of it. It's going to end up being less than 60.1. I only had 30 square feet for the.
Interesting.
For the.
Yeah, that gives you the walkway. Yeah,
right.
Makes sense.
Right. So let's leave it at 60.1 if you can.
Yeah.
All right, and we have definitely agreed to move the house and reestablish a 5 foot setback on the right side of the house.
Correct, but we'll be asking for a variance on the right side for the steps, for the platform, 3 foot platform and steps built into the setback.
All right. I guess considering that consideration there, I'll be in favor of the project.
Thank you, Mr. Craig. I appreciate that. And I wanted to explain something to the custodies and not having an attorney, perhaps your attorney might have guided you this way, but we could love you. And honestly, we do love the design. So I want to make sure that the positive feelings here are felt before any concerns are raised, right? But when a variance is sought, you have an obligation to seek to explain what the hardship is as to why you need that variance. what's the, if we don't grant it, what's the problem, or why do you need it beyond what the standard offering would be, right? And it can't simply be, because you want a little wider house, or you want a little, less space, or whatever it is. So we have an obligation not to approve, and I hope you can appreciate that for the rest of the town and not just look at your own application. So the fact that you guys, took that into consideration and moved the house is tremendously huge. I don't think it's going to affect your life in a large way, except that I think it'll actually make it better if you maintain that entrance as originally designed. I do think you wind up with a better end product, and I hope you feel that we work together with you to come out with a better option than what was originally proposed. And because of that, I'm absolutely in favor of this application. So with that, I think we're going to look for Mr. Kennedy to summarize if he's there. He kind of hides from the camera.
You know what? I'm sorry. When I write, I have to get away from the camera.
Okay.
And
Mr.
apparently
Kennedy,
I write a lot.
Before you go forward, I just wanted to mention that, there are a couple of amendments, and I think you caught them, but it's going to be, there is going to be some side yard setback for the purposes of allowing steps to be placed on that side of the house. And I believe Mr. de Blasio said it was a net neutral with the gain of pervious land. The 50 square feet that get eaten up by moving the house, you gain that, and that could be used for the purpose of providing the walkway, which was questioned. So he suggested he doesn't need to change the lot coverage calculation. And I think the only modification then would be related to the steps in the side yard setback and the driveway width.
Right. And thank you. And then Mr. de Blasi, just those three things. So the driveway width is going to be
10 feet.
10 feet. And the side setback is going to be a compliant 5 feet.
Correct.
And then the third thing, Mr. Fitzgerald, you said was?
The driveway requires a variance because it's against the property line.
Okay, so driveway.
Yeah, it's 10 feet with the setback variance.
And Ted felt that the steps would trigger the setback, but for the purpose of the steps, not for the purpose of the entire structure.
Correct.
So the step would be non-compliant, and that's the only grant that's being allowed there. In other words, we can't grant full side yard setback end to end. We're only granting side yard setback related to the encroachment of the steps.
Okay, and so that's the steps need the Michael, which side of the steps on?
The west side.
West side step, west side step setback, and what is required?
It's with is it 5 feet still, or is it
5 feet required? Okay, and what are you proposing?
It'll be 2.
2. Okay, and then just for record keeping purposes, the driveway setback variance, 10 feet is required, correct?
Well, no, the setback, the offset is supposed to be 1 foot off of the property line. We're requesting it to be built on the property line.
1 foot required, and you're putting a 0 foot setback proposed.
Okay. And I guess I have to say, we haven't discussed at all the fourth variance that's on this notice is the roof over the porch. I mean, that's obviously still being requested. We have not spoke of it at all.
I don't believe anyone had any objections to that.
Okay, thank you.
Otherwise they would have raised it. Right.
Didn't
got it.
Forget that one.
Okay, and
Thank you.
Thank you. Nope, that's good. And so the conditions of approval would include compliance with all the promises and commitments and representations made. And Mr. Chairman, that's always important, but particularly important tonight when there's some revisions being made. So if they said it and I just don't repeat it right now, it doesn't mean it doesn't count. Obviously contingent on all outside approvals, grading and drainage details to be reviewed and approved by the borough engineer. Applicants, we have a 24-month time frame in which to get the certificate of occupancy or any agreed upon extension. Are we having, Mr. Chairman, I think I wrote down a couple times, good faith obligation for the utilities, or is that no?
Yeah, that's standard fare, yes.
Standard, got it. And we have compliance with that half-story issue. Obviously, compliance with all construction and building code requirements, and need to obtain any and all demolition permits as the borough may require. Air conditioning in a zoning compliant location. Now, I know we had originally talked about revising the plans with the right side elevation to eliminate that door. What do I say with that?
That's part of the variance requested for the 3-foot platform. The door is still there.
Okay, so the
house.
door,
There's no
stays.
change to the architecturals.
Got it. And then we're not changing anything with that first floor mudroom?
No.
Okay.
Can I just clarify though, what, and maybe Ted could confirm whether or not this is a correct assumption. If they opt to eliminate that door and keep and use that mudroom space as Mr. Craig suggested, they'll be permitted to do that because it's subtracting something as opposed to adding something, right, Ted? In other words, they don't have to build the door if they choose not to at this point, but they couldn't go the other way. If they told us they weren't building the door, they couldn't add it back in later, but they can certainly not build the door and not build that platform if they wanted to.
Yeah, that's correct. Right, Kevin?
Yes, and I think, Mark, that's a good idea. If the board is so inclined, I could put something in here that says if that door and platform are eliminated, there is no need to come back to the board.
That's right, and the side yard setback would no longer pertain.
Got it. Would be not applicable. Got it. We'd also said compliance with any applicable flood regulations. We're gonna need that 3-foot platform, and I'll come back to that momentarily. Okay. Now, I guess, Mr. Chairman, we'll have to come back to this in a moment, but the issue is going to be there was some multiple variety of comments on pervious pavers and the grass strip, so let's come back to that one. Landscaping details to be submitted. I think there was a request that there be some additional trees, so we'll come back to that one. I'm making my note. Now, I think, Mr. Chairman, based upon your comments, I think there's going to be presumably a finding that that shed encroachment is not so great, and we think it should be resolved. It's only going to be potential problems later on, but we're not legitimizing it, but we encourage them to resolve that discrepancy. Now let's see. We had something about keeping steps on the west side and asked for a 10-foot wide driveway, but that's, I think we sort of, okay, we had the variance for the 3-foot platform, 2 feet from the property line. And we got to come back to the issue of dry wells. And the coverage total is that 61%. And again, what we just talked about. So I think, Mr. Chairman, the issue is that I think we just need further discussion on are the dry wells, the pervious pavers or the grass strips, and landscaping.
Mr. Kennedy, I just think in the way we've handled it in the past, if we're approving impervious coverage of 61%, right? We do ask the applicant to take mitigating steps to try to minimize the runoff and capture as much water on premise as possible.
Correct.
I don't believe any of the members, and again, they all could correct me, and anyone could correct me if I'm wrong. I didn't hear anyone say that is a condition of the application that a dry well be installed or that impervious pavers be installed. It was recommended, it was suggested, highly suggested.
Okay.
But in terms of it being a requirement, I did not hear anyone say it was an absolute requirement, and without it, they wouldn't
Perfect.
approve.
No problem. So I will let, I write down as I go off camera and write, I write down potential conditions. So I'm going to say dry well, no condition. Was there a condition regarding additional landscaping?
I think the landscaping, I'm not sure, was that Ms. Jazinovich, is that a condition of the application that certain landscaping be included?
It was, I presented it as kind of an option to help with water absorption. So that was my suggestion. Didn't sound like it was much of a hit. But I would like to suggest it again.
There will be a landscape plan, but with the application, as you know, obviously the front of the house is not going to be grass to the front door. I don't know, you mentioned trees, but there's no major tree planning on being planted other than what would be in the shrub line of the front.
Trees have more water than grass, and just small, grassy plants and things like that. So that's why I'm
right. There will be
for trees, because they do absorb more water than other.
Right. So there will be approximately a 5-foot strip of landscaping in front of the porch.
Excellent.
So no tree or anything like that on a corner of the house or in the backyard or anything like that. There's no interest in that.
I mean, there were no major plans of it, even if it's a condition. No.
So Anne Marie,
we haven't gotten that far as landscaping.
I know we haven't been through a lot of applications yet, but typically the way that would work would be it's a two-pronged approach here. Typically, we would say the board strongly recommends that the applicant take those steps, but we don't make it a requirement and we don't make it a condition of the application. If your vote yes depends on it, right, then you could ask for that to be a condition of the application. Whether or not other board members would go along with you is unknown right now, but if you say that, to the applicant that you'd like to have more clarity around that or more specificity, or you want it be a condition of the application, then Mr. Kennedy would build that in, assuming that the custodies would agree to it. They appear willing that they're going to have some type of landscaping to satisfy your concern.
I think that's very helpful, Mark. Thank you. I appreciate the instruction there.
Hope it's not mansplaining.
No, no, very helpful. No, I appreciate it. So there hasn't been any commitment either about the.
We have a dog acting up in the background. Sorry.
So there hasn't been any commitment, I don't think, or a condition established by anybody else regarding the driveway. I know Mr. Capoli had mentioned a concern about it. So I would say that mine would be contingent upon agreeing to one of those terms, either doing the driveway differently than solid asphalt or solid concrete, or a couple of trees. So
if I might say sorry about that.
Okay.
We have a stubborn bulldog that just.
You can't hear it, Mr. Custodian.
The funny thing is, as our property is now, during the summer especially, and even spring, if you don't constantly water the lawn, it's fried. It really is dry. So as not to waste water, I was even going to suggest my neighbor, instead of pumping the water in the street, I'm just like, gee, I could use that to water my lawn with it. But I know even my neighbor John has to constantly run sprinklers to his green. I didn't really know that there was that much of a water issue. We do plan on doing some landscape, but we don't know how it's going to look. It's like one of those features at the end where we're going to put what. I mean, we love hydrangeas. We do love landscaping. We just haven't gotten to that part yet. We don't know what's going to go where, how it's going to look. We're not opposed to it. It's just, we just haven't figured out the logistics of it yet.
That's where we say a good faith effort to accommodate the request will be made. And, with that, that's typically how we handle some of these aesthetics, because essentially the board is just approving the percentage of pervious versus impervious. That's it. In terms of dictating whether it's a bush, a shrub, or a tree, we don't get into that. That's beyond our capability. We're just saying it's pervious, impervious. All right, Mr. Kennedy, you there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so anything else to summarize here that we haven't covered?
No, Mr. Chairman, I think I got it all. Thank you. I'm sorry, Mark, you're on mute.
I'm guilty of that, huh? I guess we go to a vote, right?
Yes, sir.
If there's nothing else to cover here.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, ask one more question.
Sure.
I know I said I was indecisive before. I feel more comfortable now that knowing the house was moved. We cut down on the impervious coverage on the driveway side quite a bit. It sounds good to me. The only other thing I didn't hear anything mentioned, and my colleague Anne Marie and I talked about an underground service either from the front or the back. I didn't hear that mentioned as a requirement. Mr. Kennedy, can you tell me where we stand with that?
Sure. Say that again. Underground service feeder from the back?
Or the front?
Okay. Mr. de Blasi?
I think what you had said is that it was going to be the good faith effort, but that is the current plan, was to come from the back to the house. And that was already our plan.
Okay.
But I think you had just run it as good faith effort, which is standard for this board. So I'm fine with however you put it in.
Okay.
Okay, I'm good with that.
That is our current plan, unless something drastic happens with JCP&L.
I'm good with that. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, are we ready for a vote now? I think we are, right?
Yes, we are.
Okay, we're gonna go with Mr. Hutchison first.
Oh, we need a motion.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm rusty, April. Thank you for keeping me honest.
April,
Do I hear a motion to approve this application?
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Hutchison, thank you. Does anyone second it? Mr. Craig, thank you. With that, now we will go to a vote, and I'm embarrassed that I didn't get the motion. Okay, Mr. Hutch.
Yes.
Ms. Dietz.
Yes.
Mr. Zinovich.
Yeah.
Mr. Capoli.
Yes.
Mr. Craig.
Yes.
And I certainly am in favor of the application. I hope it wasn't too painful for you too.
No.
Thank you for working with us and allowing us to make those changes.
And
That's
I
much
agree.
appreciated.
That whole 14th Avenue has been undergoing a transformation, and it's just wonderful. And you guys are contributing to it. And the home that you're going to build looks terrific. So we really appreciate the investment you guys are about to make.
We can't wait. We're excited.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Okay. Is there any other business that we need to conduct, Mr. Kennedy, April?
Yes.
I'm aware.
Oh, you do? Yeah, we have to talk about another meeting, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. We don't need the custodies any longer, right?
Nope.
Or Mr. de Blasio?
No.
All right, take care, guys.
All right, so our meeting is March 25th. I reviewed the calendar and also Kevin's calendar, and how does March 30th work for everybody?
It's good by me.
Phil.
Phil Krieg is okay with it. John Lisco's okay with it.
Oh, you know what? I could turn it back over to you, John. I didn't know you.
No,
came
that's
back.
fine, Mark. You're doing great.
Here, thank you. Here.
April, I'm good with it.
March 30th, Tuesday?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, that should be okay.
That works for me too.
Hey, April, there was some question about the 7 PM versus 6 PM. Could we get that squared away? Because that could have turned into a bit of an issue.
Yeah, I mean, I've been telling everyone 6 PM. I don't know where they got 7.
I think, I'll double check on that, how that misinformation got out, but they picked it up maybe off a website or of something. So let me see if I can find out the source of the mistake.
And it's my experience, Mark, is that anytime any board makes a change like this, it's residual, sometimes blowback. If your attorney has done the first notice from a meeting 2 years ago.
Yeah, he used the old notice and
Yeah,
the time
exactly.
was 7 PM, right. So.
And forget about it when the borough hall moves and changes to a new location. But yeah, so it's not unusual. And I think, the key is try and find the source, but also April will continue to keep telling people. And, it should presumably only happen to each person once. I mean, like I said, tonight worked out, but it could have been, could have been a little bit different if we didn't have 3 applications on.
All right, so pencil in March 30th for 6 PM.
Okay.
So we have meetings the 25th and the 30th next month?
Yep.
Are the documents already available for those 2 meetings? Or are you not sure what applications are up?
No, I have a list. I have to notify the applicants and work out the scheduling with them first.
Okay.
I want to see.
Oh, do you want to say something?
Let's get it on camera. April, does that mean we get paid twice as much next month?
Yes.
Hooray.
April, we have full complement each night. 3 apps.
Well, our meeting on the 25th we're already holding 2 spots for the Verizon application and Whedon. So I have to follow up with her and find out what's going on with her and her neighbor. And see if she's ready to come. And then I have at least 6 applicants waiting, and I know of more coming in. So
86?
6.
Oh, oh my God. We're going to be here every night. Okay, good. Thank you.
No problem.
Where do we get him from?
So I guess, Mr. Chairman and Acting Chairman, just for the record, we should, in accordance with our bylaws, technically have a motion to authorize a special meeting for March 30th, 2021, 6:00 PM, remote, with the understanding that April and/or I will provide the 48-hour notice for the borough. I guess just for the record, could we have someone make a motion to that effect?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Cool, thank you.
All right, that was it. So we can do a motion to adjourn.
I make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second it.
Good night, guys.
Thank you, everybody.
Everyone.